We have Niki and Jim Schmidt, parents of Gabby Petito, to discuss their daughter's story in the movie Made Out of It, as well as via Zoom, Rose, who was Gabby's best friend.
So we were out here for a domestic violence.
We travel around a lot. We talk about domestic violence, missing persons. We just advocate as many.
Very important work.
But it was outrageous.
This week on Real Victims, we break down the Gabby Petito story, the Lifetime film.
What's fact? What's fiction?
Social media allowed us to reach a younger crowd.
Some of the negative impacts of social media.
Is that where they did reconnect?
It's all fiction.
They look really good on TV. You are so lucky.
They copied our outfits and the dance we did. It was just creepy to me.
Maybe 15 years ago.
I did get quite a lot of hate.
And I don't remember you doing it either.
People are going to say what they want to say, and it's ridiculous.
In my opinion, people need to be respected for what they're actually going through.
I personally felt ridiculously exposed.
It was totally taken down to nothing. And, you know, there was so many red flags.
Brian would never talk to me like that, like ever. I know that.
Was the depiction of the perpetrator appropriate and not glorifying?
You got to be careful who you talk to.
And it's not the viewer's fault for assuming that that is real when it's called the Gabby Petito Story.
No one makes any money off that except the TV networks.
All right, today we're going to be talking about the Gabby Petito story, and we have a few special guests joining us today. We have Niki and Jim Schmidt, as well as via Zoom, Rose, who was Gabby's best friend. This case is really special to me because it was really the first one I ever covered on social media and covered it very, very closely and just became really close to the entire situation. So I just want to thank you guys, all of y'all, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for being
Thank you.
having
Thank
us
you.
on.
Don't be so full of words.
Thank you for thanking me.
I wasn't sure if I had to pause.
Oh.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
That low voice.
Why were you guys in Las Vegas this week?
So we were out here for a domestic violence workshop. We partnered with a couple of other organizations, the Denise Amberly Foundation and the Shade Tree, which is a local domestic violence organization here in Las Vegas. And we put on a one-day workshop for domestic violence training, and it was pretty well attended. You know, not the main reason why most people come out to Vegas, but very important work.
For those people that don't know, so how many years has it been since Gabby passed?
It's been 3 years.
And so in the 3-year period, is this what you guys are dedicating your lives to now?
100%. We travel around a lot. We talk about domestic violence, missing persons. We just advocate as many places as we could get to.
My role here is I'm taking kind of the Hollywood side to critique how Hollywood's doing it, and Justin's talking more about the crime side of it. What is it like? You know, you guys got put in a tsunami when this happened. You were in the press nonstop. There was media out in front of your door. I mean, you couldn't get away from this. I mean, it's hard enough to grieve the loss of a loved one, especially no parent should ever have to bury a child. And then for you to be going through that and have media staked outside and everywhere you go, and you can't even go on your phone or on Facebook or anything without seeing Gabby's face.
Yeah.
What was that whole experience like?
In the beginning, it was really hard, and it's surreal is probably one of the best ways to describe it. Gabby, her face is everywhere. Even today, I'll turn on Hulu and I'll see a documentary about Gabby, or at some point somebody made something. She was on many different shows, and it's difficult. It just brings you back to the beginning again, over and over again. So yeah, PTSD for sure.
You don't expect it. In that moment, you're doing anything you can to find your missing child. So, you know, you're trying to get the word out there the best you can. We had no idea it was going to take off the way it did. We still don't know why it did. We can speculate, but it's just everywhere, and you don't get a break from it. And I think that's the difference today than maybe 15 years ago, with the power of social media and the fact that everybody has the internet and the world at their fingertips in their phone. So people are seeing things like in real life every moment, and it's just everywhere. You open up Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, and, you know, it's all over that. It's on every news channel. Like you said, reporters parked outside your house, newspapers. It was just everywhere, and it still is. It still manages to come up. So you don't really get a break, you know, once things settle down to grieve. Once you start, all of a sudden, for some reason, it pops back up. You know, and it still happens to this day.
Talking about the social media impact, what was that part like for y'all? What did that do for the case, in your opinion?
I think it helped get the word out really fast. So I've learned some things after the fact. I've done some work now with the fire department I work for doing public relations. And when we want to try to get a message across, different demographics utilize different social media sources or areas to get their news and their information from. And I think social media allowed us to reach a younger crowd and just the speed that it gets out. And you can see, you put up a post and within minutes it can be shared by 5 people and then by 5 more. And before you know it, it's all over the place and it kind of goes viral. And you can see how quickly that happens. So I think that really brings a lot of attention to these cases that maybe they wouldn't get in the past while you're waiting for a newspaper to print or, you know, the nightly news to pick up at, 8 o'clock at night or whatever on a story. It's happening right away and people are seeing it. So I think it gave her story a lot of attention. And because she was also so active on social media, putting her life out, I think it was a lot of young people were able to relate to it. And that's why it kind of took off.
Obviously, there was a lot of, for either one of y'all, there was a lot of positivity that came from social media, and I'm sure we'll talk about, Jen Bethune a little bit later and some of the other things that have happened. But I think it's important for the audience to know some of the negative impacts of social media. And I know we can talk to Rose about this in a little bit as well. But what would you guys say some of the negative things are that, you feel that people should know?
Yeah, I mean, it was a blessing in disguise. We wanted our missing daughter to be found, so we didn't care that people were sharing and people were piping in their opinions. But there were some people that are not so nice. And I think overall we had a better experience than most people do. But they're out there. We were good about it. We ignored it. I think that the goal was to find our daughter and not to worry about who's saying what, any accusations or theories that are out there. You have to look over that. And the goal is to just get her home. So I know Rose experienced some awful haters, and she's just being herself, and it's just horrible. And I think it affected her a little bit, and I feel really bad about that. I try to tell her, don't listen to anybody. It's you don't even know them; they're nobodies, and but it's hard. It's hard.
Rose, do you want to weigh in on that a little bit?
Well, I do agree with Niki with a lot of that. Is that you have to realize what the goal is, and I did get quite a lot of hate. You name it, I've probably been called it, but I think even when I did let it get to me, it was a brief moment where I could be like, okay, I just want my friend found. So whatever anyone else has to say doesn't matter. And it came down to like whose opinion did matter. And that was Gabby's family, and my friends, these random people, they just
Rose
wanted to
was accused of being part of the whole plot to murder her best friend. And that is absolutely disgusting behavior. And people need to stop doing that because families are getting hurt and people are getting hurt. So
yeah, I was accused of being a murderer, the other woman, in love with Gabby, in love with Brian, whatever they could figure out to do. And I always say I feel lucky for being a stronger person, but other people, I mean, I was 21. A lot of other 21-year-olds care a lot more about social media and what people have to say, and going through everything I was going through, being called a murderer, like it just came to a point where I was like, I could prove to everyone I didn't do it, but I was aware it didn't matter because people are going to say what they want to say, and it's ridiculous.
One of the things I remember from this case, and this is kind of even how you guys even connected, this was like the first case from what and correct me if I'm wrong, but this was probably the first case where a true crime event really blew up on TikTok.
yeah,
I mean, this case in particular went viral very fast. And once it gets out of control like that, obviously crazy stuff is going to happen. You talk to anybody, it doesn't matter whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. When things go viral, trolls come out, haters come out. So I can only imagine being trolled or people saying mean things when you're experiencing something like you guys are going through. Especially like Rose, you're trying to absorb what just happened and then have people attack you and then make outrageous claims. And you were young. You're still young, but you were very young then. I don't know if anything you can do can prepare you for that.
Yeah, I think I just turned 21 2 weeks prior to all of this happening. I was bullied a lot as a kid. That's what prepared me for most of it. But like it was brutal. My mom was terrified for me in my mental health, which made me feel even worse because I didn't want my mom scared for my mental health. But it was outrageous. It was kind of, no, it was definitely crazy to see how hateful people can get so quickly over something that's already so traumatizing.
For me, it's like hard to believe that there's people out there that are that hateful, like that we live amongst monsters.
Yeah.
And it's sickening, but you gotta look past it and do what you gotta do.
It was more positive, I think, than negative
For us.
for us.
Well, I think for the most part, especially with this case, from covering it from the social media side, what people liked about it or why I think it was so positive, I hate to use the word liked, was because Gabby was so active on social media herself. People felt that there were a lot of clues that they could go in and start dissecting this and digging into it and zooming in and all this stuff, trying to be helpful. And sometimes, as we know, that worked out and something came of it. But other times you get hit with the most outlandish theories you've ever heard. But I think that's part of the reason why social media did play such a big impact with Gabby's case in particular, was because there were so many breadcrumbs left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the case also propelled a new generation of sleuths. I will call them sleuths on TikTok and YouTube. I mean, Twitter has a whole new missing community. I mean, it really blew up for a lot of people. And even in the media, they started changing the way they do things. They have missing shows now. I mean, it's pretty incredible that the change that was made after this case.
But has the media really changed? That's one of the reasons we're here today. Perfect segue. So the thing that we like to do on our show is you guys had a lot of stuff done on this story, but today we're going to talk about the Lifetime movie, the Gabby Petito Story. It was directed by Thora Birch. It starred Thora Birch. We're going to dissect that movie today, and we're going to see how the media portrayed your story. And we're going to have you guys make comments on it and tell us how accurate it is or not accurate. Also, we'd like to have your opinion on some things, whether there's anything in there that's upsetting to you guys or that you're pleased with. So with that being said, should we start going through some of the clips?
I think so. But one thing, just for total transparency, is you did invite a lot of people from Lifetime to be here.
Well, not a few, but I reached out to a couple of the producers.
And we were met with silence. So just want to let people know that it's not like we're trying to be one-sided here. Mm-hmm. We were trying to give them an opportunity, and they just chose not to take it.
And the concept is, we want to hear from the victims on what you guys thought of the story that was portraying, obviously, one of the toughest day of your life. Why don't we show the first clip to these guys and see what you guys think of this?
Are we bound by FCC rules here?
Nope, you're not. You can say whatever you want.
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But we are definitely not making the same mistake twice.
Gabby, I'll pick you up Friday at 7.
Mm-hmm. I had no idea how bad you suck at this.
Ow! What?
Do you want me to go get the guy? Have him put up the bumpers for you.
Wow, you keep going like this, and I will start crying, and then I will never share my talents with you.
Oh, tell me about these talents.
Oh my God, where do I even start? Did you know that I can solve the maze on the back of any menu?
Wow, you're like a super genius.
That's what I'm telling you.
So that was a scene from the movie where they apparently reconnected at a party, and then they went on their first date.
It's all fiction.
First, let's talk about, is that where they did reconnect?
It's all fiction. They made that up. All of it's made up.
So how did they reconnect?
I believe the story was, and I might be changing it up a smidge because I don't know the exact time and date or anything like that, but there was this deli in our town where they made really good egg sandwiches. It's a Long Island thing. And Gabby was at the deli, and I believe Brian showed up at the same exact time. And they just ran into each other and started hanging out after that.
Do you know of a first date or anything, or no?
Well, I think they just started hanging out. It wasn't like dating. I don't know.
I can tell you she wouldn't go bowling.
There was no bowling.
There was no bowling.
There was no bowling.
She did not like bowling. She was not very athletic.
I tried to take her bowling a few times. She said no.
Yeah.
So
I don't even think she knows the bowling alley has bumpers, and she certainly doesn't talk like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So just to get this out of the way, what are all your opinion on who played Gabby and who played Brian? Were they good choices, or did they channel the characters well?
I think they were fine choices to work with what they had. I mean, as far as like, I think we talked about this, the scenes where you can copy what you saw, like on the body cam footage and such, they did a good job with kind of acting that out. But the fictional scenes, they don't have the personalities. They're just not. It just doesn't.
She comes
right.
off as very like conceited and like cocky and like quippy with her responses. That's not how she was. She was more laid back. She was very subtle about her approach, even like modest about her own approach and how she dressed. And, you know, she wore clothes that she liked that looked good on her, but it wasn't like she's like walking out like, oh, I'm so sexy. You know, this, look at me. All the guys are staring at me.
I actually saw Rose kind of cringe a little bit when during the bowling scene.
I want to hear Rose's opinion.
So what do you think, Rose? Was it?
Well, I mean, I do agree with Jim. Like, I wouldn't say Gabby was insecure, but like she definitely didn't think she was hot shit. She was just kind of like, I'm here, and you know, I did my hair and everything, but it was never like I think it was part of the meeting at the party scene, and she was like, oh, well, even, or maybe it was the bowling, I don't know, but it was like, even hot girls need a date or something, and I'm like, she would never say something like that. Like, that would if she heard someone say that, she would cringe. She'd be like, yeah.
She was more likely to compliment somebody else for, oh my God, you look amazing. That's a great outfit. I love your shirt.
She was the type of girl.
Herself.
Yeah, she was the type of girl that would fix your crown. Like,
All right, so this is a clear case of Hollywood being Hollywood then, because clearly the scene is way off then.
Yeah.
So why don't we let's roll the next clip.
My family is a little nutty. For some mysterious reason, everyone seems to get along. So I've got my mom and my stepdad, Jim, and then my dad and my stepmom, Kara. So 2 moms and 2 dads.
Right. I think I'm gonna say that I get it.
So what is it you said you did again, Brian?
Landscaping mostly these days. Yeah.
So you mow yards?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a little more than that because I also work at the nursery, so.
And is that part-time, full-time?
Part-time. Yeah, I'm still figuring it out.
Okay, I'm hearing laughs. So I'm sure you have something to say, Jim.
This whole scene is ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know when I watched this, if this was the first or second beer I had to crack to kind of get through it. I mean, other than the fact that he has an amazing set of hair, I mean, that is phenomenal. I mean, he is one good-looking guy, I got to say. I look really good on TV. You are so lucky. But, yeah, I don't think my interactions would be that direct to him like that.
That never happened. Again,
And
fictional.
that never happened.
Yeah, there wasn't a family like meeting where we met Brian all together and we talked about what he does, and like Gabby was like, "This is my family," and like it was that never happened.
Well, also coming from somebody that like did have the meeting side of like having to meet you guys, and I mean, obviously it wasn't the best way. Neither of you were judgmental like that. Neither of you were just like, oh, so that's what you do for work. And it's like, why would you? Also, I kind of am bothered that they make, I mean, it's not that hard to understand a dad, a stepdad, a mom, and a stepmom. And he's like, well, I'm going to try to make that make sense. Like, it just was, the whole scene was so stupid to me, where I was like,
yeah,
this is
yeah, I agree. I agree.
And look mean or like judgmental. And that's
not
far
us.
from what you guys are.
So the only thing they got right then in this is the fact that we know that obviously Joe and Tara aren't here, but you all do get along very well.
We do.
So that's the only accurate part.
Yeah.
And that I'm extremely good looking.
Yes, and yes.
Do you remember the first time you met Brian?
Yeah, sort of. He came to my house with Gabby, and she was like, "Remember Brian from high school?" And I maybe had met him briefly in high school, but it was more of a like, just he's my friend, and I thought he was cool. He was a really good artist. I mean, I thought he was really nice.
Okay, want to do number 3?
Let's go for it.
Let's see the next clip.
I think we should make another video. No, I don't think I don't like it, but I think we can do it.
I thought it was really good. I was struggling.
Oh, look at my handsome man.
Hi, Brian.
Hello, Rose.
Hey, baby.
Yeah?
I'm going line dancing with the roaster. I gotta change real fast.
Whoa, hold on. I just made dinner for us. That's why I was trying to call you, but you hung up on me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm so sweet. Isn't he just the best boyfriend ever?
He is just a dreamboat.
Hey, you know what? We'll have dinner together before we go, okay? I'll be right back.
You girlies gonna have a fun time tonight?
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
It's gonna be lit. You're gonna have a super sick Gucci time.
Oh, it's gonna be like so gold, Brian.
That's great. That's really, really great.
So why does it bother you so much if Gabby has a good time?
Doesn't bother me. I'd like to see my fiance every now and again.
Oh, come on, Brian.
You see Gabby 8 days a week. She likes dancing.
You don't like dancing. Like, deal with it.
Hey, Rose, who are you? Because there's me, Brian, and then there's Gabby, my fiance, and then there's you, Rose, with the input.
Rosie Rose, I can't decide.
So I can tell by Rose's smiles, this is either an Academy Award winning scene or this is completely ridiculous. So Rose, we'll let you jump in.
Brian would never talk to me like that, like ever. I know that. And I was never mean to him. He knew how I felt because I feel like, I don't know for a fact, but because of how much I was like, no, Gabby, come over. Like, Gabby, and I wouldn't want to go over there a lot. And like, I know it was noticeable, like the way her attitude towards him had changed throughout our friendship and her staying the night there. And that's why I think he grew to like not, I'd say hate me, to him hating me. I never wanted to stir the pot with him because I didn't want to give him more of a reason to hate me than he already had come up with in his head and ruin my friendship with my friend. And so I kind of just let him be and just didn't hang out with him a lot. I try to always have her come to me or us go do something else. So it was inaccurate for the majority of it, other than him cooking when we got there. Because I feel like that was his like love language, was to always cook for her. So other than that, it just was kind of bullshit. And I mean, I kind of wish that's how I was now, where I'm like, I wish I was a bitch to you. But no, I was never mean to him other than like telling Gabby, like, no, respond this way. That's annoying. Tell him that's annoying. But no, I was never mean to him. The whole line dancing thing, that's just, they were wrong with that as well. Yeah, we were going line dancing, but I could tell you we still went line dancing, like how it shows the whole ID thing. He did all of that, but we still went out. I was like, no, there's no chance here. He doesn't get to win. He doesn't get to win. And I do want to just add in there that the scene before that, where we're doing our TikTok dance, that was creepy. Like that was very uncomfortable for me, where they copied our outfits and the dance we did. It was just creepy to me. I didn't like it. But I just wanted to add that in there because that was
how do you feel about the character that played you and how she personified you?
Okay, well, I want to say she is hot. So, Jim and I definitely won on the picks. Who plays us. She is beautiful. But I mean, other than the way that I treat Brian in it, it's pretty, the sarcasm and all of that stuff. Like that's pretty accurate. I'd say accurate.
I would agree. I've known you for a while, and when I watched it for the first time, I was like, they got her pretty well. Her personality.
And it was definitely weird still, seeing someone play you without, your permission in any way. It was definitely really weird.
Yeah.
But especially them getting my like personality down pretty well. It's just like, it's just creepy. I don't know. I found the whole thing very creepy.
Did Gabby dote on Brian like the way she did when she went up to him? Very gushy at the beginning there. Was that kind of accurate?
No. We mainly we'd involve him when we were there, but it was never like, oh my God, you're the best. Isn't my boyfriend great? One, because I was single, so she never wanted to rub it in my face that I had not had love in my life. the way he did in this movie, making it sound like I'm just some lonely loser. But no, she didn't. No, I mean, she was grateful. Like he would, cook for her and everything. And she was always very grateful for it. And, oh, I love you and everything. But I don't even think I've ever seen them kiss unless I just blocked it out of my brain.
Show the ID scene real quick.
Okay, so weird. His ID's not on here. Sorry, 1 second.
All right.
I'm sure you just left it at home.
Yeah, but why would I take it out at home then? Damn it. How do you not get what a violation that is?
It was just a prank.
No, it wasn't, Brian. You clearly didn't want me to go anywhere without you, so you steal my ID? No one said you couldn't go with us.
Oh, and what? Sit in the corner, be bored all night?
So what? I can't hang out with my friends now?
That's not. You can hang out with whoever you want. Like, what do I care?
You say that?
So that was the scene you were referring to before about the ID. So did that actually happen?
I was waiting on her to get to my house. It's a 40-minute drive. And I think like an hour, 20 minutes went by, and I was like texting her. I'm like, Gabby, where are you? Like, what's going on? And she wasn't responding. And I think I called her and she still didn't respond. And then she texted me because she had already texted me she was on her way. So I was like kind of concerned. I think I checked her location and she was still in the interstate. So it was weird. But she texted me and was just, I'm crying right now. We just got into a huge fight. He stole my ID. I had to go home. So I'm assuming, like, being the very prepared person she was looking to make sure her ID was in her wallet while she was coming here, because it's something we both would do, like get paranoid, like, oh my gosh, what if I don't have it? And realized it wasn't there. And then she told me, she was like, he stole my ID. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see you soon. And then she got there and I asked her, and she was just kind of hysterical. She wouldn't tell me like what transpired, what, like, how, other than he stole the ID. And she yelled at him, and like they got in this huge fight. And then I was like, okay, well, do you still want to go out? And she was like, yes. So we still went out, and my family was out there. So we all were hanging out, line dancing. Yeah. So he did steal her ID at one point. And they did get in a huge fight about it, but she still went out with me.
But so you guys didn't find out about it at the club? So
no,
that
but
whole
she
thing
found
was
out
made
about
up.
it on the way to my house, not even on the way to the line dancing bar.
Let me ask you this then too. And so obviously we know that they got your personality down without ever meeting you and talking to you, which is weird in of itself. I don't remember. I know that they wouldn't have, and I don't remember you doing it either. Did you ever make a video or anything about that situation with the ID? Like, how did they know about that?
No, that made me uncomfortable because I didn't talk about anything like their arguments or anything. Well, I wouldn't talk about Brian at all on social media for a while because I didn't want to talk about him. I had Gabby on my mind, and that's what was important. So I don't know. I never posted anything about it. I remember when I would do like TikTok live every once in a while, but there were so many people in there, and I felt like I was like betraying not her, but like, there's stuff that we knew about. So I didn't talk about that.
There was an interview. I don't remember who was a media person. I think you did mention that license thing at some point. I can't remember who it was. But I think it was just, you were just talking about situations that had happened with Gabby because you were questioned about it. But it wasn't like in detail. But I think you mentioned it.
Okay.
They had to have seen it somewhere. Yeah.
At that time, but yeah, I mean,
even if you just said he stole her ID when we were going out, like it could have been that simple, but they made the rest of it up.
There's no way they could have just came up with the line dancing part of it. Well, maybe, I guess, because I do have videos of me line dancing.
We should actually lay something out now because we didn't make it clear at the beginning. None of you guys participated in the making of this film, right? None of you were consultants.
No.
They didn't consult with anybody, right? As far as you guys know, in the inner circle.
I didn't get a phone call.
No, I didn't get emails or phone calls. No.
And I know that we can speak because we've kind of confirmed on our own, but we also know that Joe and Tara didn't get asked either. So nobody, they just made this without asking anybody at all.
Which to me is astonishing, because I think it's borderline classless. But if you're gonna make something like this, you should at least give the option or make an offer to the families, whether they want to say no or not, or yes or not. But they should have the right to be able to participate. I mean, what would you have done if they came to you and asked you if you want to consult with this?
At the time, it was way too soon. I would have said absolutely not. I'm not participating in a movie about my child when this just happened and we are devastated and grieving. Yeah.
It wasn't just a movie, though, or like anything. It was for entertainment purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
So quickly. And I personally felt ridiculously exposed watching my worst time of my life as just a friend made for entertainment purposes. That blows my mind. And then just use my full name and personality and copy my bedroom and copy my TikToks and all this stuff, and not even an email.
That's a good way for me to explain some of the way Hollywood works. So unfortunately, with a crime like this, it's a public event. When something's newsworthy and it's in the news, Hollywood does not need your permission to use your daughter's name or use your name or use Rose's name. And so for anybody wondering why they were able to do this and use everybody's real names and even find people with a similar likeness like they did with Rose, they're allowed to do it because this is based on a real life event. The downside is, as we're starting to learn now, the story was kind of twisted. So it's based on a true story, but it's not actually the real story. And that's where it gets where the lines get blurred a little bit. Should they have the protection to use real names, and should they be able to use the real names and likenesses and not tell the story exactly how it happened?
I was very upset that they called it the Gabby Petito story. It was not the Gabby Petito story. It was mostly fictional. They just based it off of a news story and things that they were seeing in the media and people's TikToks and our videos, any interviews that we did. They took it all and made a story out of it. And I think people watch it and they get the idea that, oh, this is what really happened, and that's not the truth.
No, that's the cautionary tale of this whole show is, if something says based on a true story, doesn't mean it's a true story.
Right.
It could be like 1%, right? Like it can be very, very little, just something, and they're allowed to say it correct in your world. I think too, since we're talking about the entertainment aspect of it, when it comes to true crime, and I try to remind people of this often, I get being interested, I get being invested into the cases, especially when you follow them, but it's not entertainment. Y'all are real people. Rose is real people. These are real people who lost, a child or a friend. And one, it's not entertaining. It's good to be interested. It's good to be involved, but it's not supposed to be entertainment. And the other thing, as somebody watching this unfold, you're not entitled to all the information that's out there. Just because you're following it doesn't mean that you're owed anything from anybody on it. It shouldn't just be entertainment. It should be, in my opinion, people need to be respected for what they're actually going through.
And I'd like to add, if they had waited and then maybe came to us at a later time and talked to us about how important it is to tell the story in a way that shows red flags and could help victims of domestic violence, maybe then it would have been a little bit better. It would have been done in a nicer way if we worked with them.
Because that would have been very important to you guys. I mean, there were a lot of negative reviews on the film. One of the reviewers said the film was an overly simplified view of domestic violence.
Yeah.
The fact on how they just kind of hovered over that and went through it, this film could have been something that helped save lives. Instead, they went down the entertainment route.
Yeah.
They didn't work with you guys on it.
Jealous boyfriend.
It was like
kills his girlfriend. That was
any
the story.
other movie. Any other movie that they put out that portrays domestic violence in it, right? It almost like normalizes it. And like that, it's just another day in somebody's life. Nothing to be learned from it. Nothing to take away from it to say, this has got to stop. We got to change this. We got to do better. Something for people to see, to recognize like, hey, these are signs. I just feel as a society, we're just so desensitized to so many things that like they see somebody die on the news. It's like, oh, yeah, whatever. Oh, what's up with this story? What's going on? What's the real story behind it? And then they make a movie.
And then people believe that that's the real story.
They believe it.
So we have a lot more clips to go through, and now we're talking about domestic violence, so I want to get to some of that. So why don't we keep going? Let's go to clip number 5.
There she is. Okay, so we bought her used, and I've been sprucing it up in my free time.
Wow.
It looks, yeah, looks cozy.
We're not living in it, we're living out of it. And look, it's got everything we need. I built this cool, like, bed couch thing, and then I put hooks for everything we want to get to quickly. These tables that go up and down, and then put cubbies and houseplants. There's even room for our tent for when we want to camp outside. I mean, isn't this like the coolest thing you've ever seen?
Yes, it is very, very cool.
Yeah, there's like this whole culture now called van life. It's like actually pretty popular. People just like pack up their life and hit the road.
But you're not planning on living the rest of your life this way, though, right?
What? Can I just be young for like a little while?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm just being a mom. You go be young.
Okay, I love you.
I love you too, sweetie.
Bye.
Can I just say that, knowing you,
Ridiculous.
I hate how they portrayed you.
I know.
The one thing though that was, I don't know if you noticed, all three of them, and I want to ask you about this because I know you told me last night about it, but the second all of you saw that van, I saw a noticeable change in the looks on your faces. It's a very recognizable van.
Yeah.
Does seeing that van always bring back bad memories now?
I don't mind seeing the van. Actually, when I see it, I always think it's Gabby sending me a sign, so I don't mind seeing the van. Seeing it in the movie, I have to say they did a really good job. But the inside looked impeccable. It was so similar. They had some of the same exact stuff.
They're just copying it from everything they saw on her YouTube. They were just copying, pasting everything they see. They did the same with my room. I turned my whole room into something else after that.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they put a lot into design, but oh my God, just let me live my life.
That never happened. She never. When did she first tell you about the van and that she was going to go across country?
When she bought the van, she did call me. I don't remember what the exact conversation was, and she sent me some photos. She talked about the design, and then once they started building it, she would call me and show me pictures of like the stuff that they put into it. It was really cool, but it took a lot of time, and there was never a FaceTime video about her taking a cross-country road trip. Like I knew that's what she wanted to do eventually, so it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, they just make you seem like you don't support her dreams. It's kind of the way they have you portrayed, like throughout the whole thing. It's just, and I know that that's not true.
No, we had a very different relationship. We were very close, and I did tell her that I was envious of her doing this. I think it was the most awesome idea ever, and I just wanted her to make sure that she was financially ready. And I was being a mom in one aspect, but I was really excited for her in another.
That you're still supportive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think out of all the characters, if there's one they really got wrong,
I agree.
It would be Niki.
I would agree.
In every aspect. I think it was just way off.
Now's where we get to the tougher scenes, because everything from here on out isn't as joyful or, probably things that you really don't want to remember. So if anything's too hard for you guys to talk about or look at, you can just tell us that you don't want to see it or talk about it, and we can move on, because I know how hard this is for you guys. Let's show a clip 6, because this is kind of where everything started to turn.
Hey, that's cool too, but you know what? I'll see you next time. I'll see you. Okay. So, want to give you a tongue treat?
Okay.
Yeah. Here, try this out.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My God. I want my whole life to be like this, Peach. This is delicious.
Yeah, enjoy.
Thanks.
Make sure to check out the rest of the market.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Can you please try not to truck dirt and sand into the van?
We're camping in the wilderness, Gabby, so like sand and dirt, they're gonna happen.
I work really hard to make this a home.
Damn it, Gabby, it's just a van. All right, so I don't understand why you have to be so OCD. It's just a little dirt.
You're in a great mood.
Well, yeah, because I saw you flirting with that guy back there.
What guy?
This Peach is my life guy.
Wait, the produce guy?
Yeah.
Oh, he was just being friendly. That's his
my
job.
God, you're so stupid. Really? Like, I was right there. I mean, like, that's what guys do, but you're just like, oh, everyone's so nice. All those guys on the internet, they're just being goofy.
What is wrong with you? You always have to find something to fight about.
Yeah, because I'm sick of this.
I'm not dealing with this right now.
No. You don't get to shut me out. I have every right to be pissed at you.
Let go of me. I want to get my laptop.
Why, so you can read more comments about how hot you are?
Brian.
What?
Let go of me!
All right, we're gonna walk.
from each other right now because you need to calm down.
I want to get in the van.
Oh, you're not gonna, all right? Hey, hey! Would you stop? Would you stop it? Stop it. Calm down. How you like that, huh? Gabby. You're causing a scene right now. Causing a scene. Okay, so we need to get out of here right now. Get in the van, Gabby. Get in the van. Get in the van. Get in the van. Come on, you're all right. You're all right. You're all right. Come on.
911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, I'm on the corner of Main Street by Moonflower, and I'd like to report a domestic dispute.
I want to talk about two things.
All right.
Or maybe three. First of all, that is not how the whole situation went down. If you listen to the 911 call, the witness saw him slapping her. I don't know why. In this movie, they had her slap him first. That did not happen that way. She had pushed him away, and I think she was trying to get him off of her, and he had defensive wounds on him, which the police ignored. And this whole situation was crazy because the van was actually locked. He locked her out of the van, and seeing the back doors are open. It's not a locked up van.
Yeah.
She climbed through, I believe, the driver's side window to get back into her van because he locked her out. The whole scene's just wishy-washy. There was no, that I know of, issue with some being jealous of some other guy. That didn't happen. I do believe she was upset over the van being messy. She mentions that in the Moab video, in the police cam. So I don't know. Yeah, I think a lot of it, they just added to it to make it more movie-like.
You said you don't know of any issues of jealousy with him. Did you ever notice anything where he was controlling like that? Not even like that, but there's signs, you guys know, especially now looking back. Did you ever notice him being controlling of her, trying to isolate her?
Now looking back, I believe it would have to be, the biggest thing for me would be the Taco Bell. She worked at Taco Bell and she had a friend there and she started hanging out with friends and he didn't like that. So she ended up working at the same place as him.
Did she work at Taco Bell before the Publix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the movie, they had her working at Publix together, then an ice cream store. So there's no ice cream store.
There's no ice cream.
That mumble jumbled. Taco Bell was after Publix. It was Publix, and then it was like COVID-ish time and some other stuff. And then she started working at Taco Bell a little bit into our friendship because she was coming to work with me all the time. And I was like, maybe you should get a job. And then I remember him getting mad because she was working like 50 hours a week because she enjoyed Taco Bell.
Publix was after because she had to leave Publix to go on the road trip.
She worked at Publix when she came up in April for my mom's funeral, April of 2021.
Where did she work before Taco Bell?
Maybe she worked at an ice cream store. No, she I don't think she did.
Maybe she was Publix. She went back to Publix, maybe.
I think
she was working as a pharmacy tech there because I remember at my mom's funeral, she was talking about learning about medications and, it was good pay and learning about, wow, people are on a lot of medications for mental health and stuff like that. She's like, I never realized that.
She told me this one lady complained about her because she didn't get the lady's name right. She didn't pronounce her name right, so she complained about Gabby.
But Rose,
remember that story?
Did you ever see Brian and Gabby fight like that in that scene?
No, I knew he was controlling. Like, I knew that for a fact because we'd get in, like, not arguments, but about like the car, like her car. Like, I definitely seen the controlling side where like she'd come here and she'd be like, Brian said I can't take the car. Yeah. And then her and I would talk about it and I'd be like, okay, well, I'll come pick you up, but that's 40 minutes. So that'll be like over an hour of driving. So you're going to stay the night at my house tonight, actually. And so that backfired on Brian every time because now she's staying longer. But like that controlling I'd never seen either of them touch each other. I've seen her hysterical after the fact or something at my house. I've seen her like hysterical, just like in the like body cam like footage. Mm-hmm. But she, I'd ask her like one or two times like what happened. And every time she would just not want to talk about it or say something very vague. And I'd kind of ask again and she just would never want to talk about it. I didn't want to push her into talking about anything, but I'd never seen them lay their hands on each other. I've seen her like roll her eyes at him.
Now that you brought up the body cam scene, because this is the scene that most people are aware of, this was really the thing that kind of started propelling this case where most people found out about it. But this is now, let's play the next clip because this is what happened immediately after what happened at the market.
They're being.
Hey, you need to pull over.
Why? It's
Brian,
not
you need
for
to pull
us.
over.
There's
The
no way
police
it's
are.
for us
That
because
is for us. He's right behind us.
I'm going
Brian,
straight.
you
Don't
need to
grab
pull
the
over.
wheel. Don't grab
Brian,
the wheel.
you need to
You
pull
got
over.
it down.
The police are right there.
I am going to pull over. All right? Yes, I'm pulling over.
No, I told you that he was coming in.
Yeah,
You needed to pull
I
over.
was pulling over and you grabbed the wheel. You don't get.
Okay, turn your engine off for me. Go ahead and set the keys on the dash for me, all right? What's your guys' names?
Gabby.
Brian Laundrie.
Gabby? Brian? Okay. What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm just crying. We've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
Can I get you to step out of the vehicle for me, man?
Yeah.
Go ahead and hang tight for me, all right? Why don't you walk over here with me? Have the female passenger separated from the male.
Excuse me, sir?
Yeah.
Hey, good day. Hey. You have any weapons in the car?
No.
So what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's just like you get really bad OCD. And I was cleaning and straightening up the back of the van before, and I was apologizing to him, saying I'm sorry for being so mean, because sometimes I have bad OCD and I get really frustrated, and not like mean towards him, just like, I don't know. So I was saying I'm sorry if I'm in a bad mood. It's just I'm really stressed and I had so much work to do on my computer this morning.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I just quit my job to travel across the country, and I'm trying to start a blog. I have a blog, so I've been building my website, and it's been really stressful, and he doesn't even really believe I can do any of it, so that's kind of in my head, and I don't know, he's kind of a downer, and I don't know, this morning we were just fighting, and he wouldn't let me in the car before.
Why would he let you into the car? Because of the OCD?
He said I need to calm down, yeah, but I'm like perfectly calm. I'm calm all the time. It just really stresses me out, and this is a rough morning.
Oh, you spoke to Gabrielle, my fiance?
Yeah, I spoke to her. Why don't you tell me what happened?
Well, she just, she gets worked up sometimes, and so like I try to keep my distance. That's why I locked the car and was walking away. But so what happened this morning was that she was working on her little like website blog and everything. So I was I was giving her time and everything, and we really had a really nice morning, if anything. But she just got worked up because we were trying to get going, because we had to get our day started, because we were supposed to hike Arches.
Gabby, you have some marks on your face. Did he hit you? We have witnesses who say they saw him hit you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, to be honest, I hit him first.
So, what do you want to do?
She says she hit him first, but...
I mean, technically she's the primary aggressor, but how big a feather you need to knock this kid over?
I really don't want to take her to jail over this. If she says she had no intention of doing him any injury, we don't have to call it domestic assault. We can just do a 24-hour no contact order.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I know this is a scene you have a lot to talk about. I know you want to say a lot about this, so why don't you just tell us what's going on in your head right now?
The actors that portrayed Brian and Gabby, first of all, did it. They did a very good job. They studied it, and they did a very good job. But the whole scene, as it was totally taken down to nothing, and there was so many red flags in this police body cam footage. The first thing Gabby does.
First of all, how long was the actual thing? Was over an hour, right? It was over an hour, and they condensed it into 3 minutes, right?
Right. So that it didn't happen that quickly.
They condensed it into what went viral, basically.
Yeah.
The whole thing is on YouTube that you can go watch, and you can see the full context of everything.
And it's not an easy watch for anybody listening who decides to go do it.
Especially for survivors, if you're watching that, you see yourself in that video because, first thing Gabby does is apologize immediately That's a red flag of somebody trying to protect themselves. She gets out of the van. She's terrified. She starts apologizing again, saying it's all her fault, that they had a bad morning. Later on, when they talk to Brian, he talks about how they had a great morning. He lies about having a phone. I mean, there's just so many things that went wrong here. It was just a complete failure all around. And they didn't get it all. They just kind of, like I said, condense it into whatever. But it was horrible that she was put into the back of a police car when she was clearly distressed, and he was very calm, which is the typical dynamic of domestic violence. Yeah,
they missed points of it where, in the actual footage where law enforcement is coaching his answers to dictate the response that they wanted, not diving deeper into her potential injuries that she actually had. That traffic stop is actually used by law enforcement agencies, not all but some, across the country. It's used by domestic violence advocates for recognizing what a victim looks like and portrays and how an abuser looks like. Like Niki said, there's just so much in that. I think if they were going to make this like a learning moment, this I think would have been the scene where they could have kind of focused on some of those things.
What precisely in there? Can you list what were the red flags that Gabby was the victim? Because despite what she's saying, so she's telling them that she's not the victim, but what were things in there that the police officer should have probably known?
The way she's acting, she's hysterical, so she looks like she's the crazy one. She's apologizing. She's taking the blame herself.
So is that something that's a common of a victim?
That's a common of a victim. A lot of times, even if they do say, hey, he hit me or whatever it is, they recant later on because they know that once they're separated, when they get back together, that's the most dangerous time for them. So a lot of times they recant. So they put it all on themselves to try to navigate through that. An abuser will look just like that, cool, calm, and collected. Everything was fine. Everything is good. What is she saying about me? Is she saying bad things about me? No, why? Was there something bad? No, I'm just checking. Yeah, because it was a good morning, and just looks like they're just, not even flustered by it.
She looks like the crazy one, and that's the purpose.
Well, that's reactive abuse.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and you had mentioned something earlier that they didn't show in the movie, but we know because we've seen the real footage. He actually calls her crazy. He's like, oh, she's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's what everything, that's what people like that try to do. They try to make the victim, they push them till they snap or till they can't go any further. They become hysterical and they're like, look at her. She's crazy. Look what she's doing.
It's manipulation.
It's 100% gaslighting, manipulation. Everything. When you saw that footage, I mean, I'm not obviously a professional to diagnose it, but it is very toxic, very narcissistic behavior.
Yeah, and that's something that we're seeing with this case. And I hate to use the wording that like domestic violence advocates have been waiting for something like this, but they've been teaching these things for years, almost upon deaf ears. But now almost every aspect of the things that they teach or have been talking about was seen in her case. And a lot of it was in real time. Looks like the perfect life. Here they are. Boom, you have a traffic stop. This is how a victim looks. This is how an abuser looks. They're separated. They come back together. That's the most deadly time. Strangulation training. It just goes on, and it just ties into so many areas of domestic violence. And that's why for them, they're using almost every aspect of her case to try to help others.
And there was a failure from law enforcement. They didn't use a lethality assessment, which Moab had accessible. They were supposed to be using that, which is questions to ask a victim in a trauma-informed way. The officer that was the lead on that call, he was accused of being an abuser. He had a very long history of
accusations
being horrible to women. So,
it might be a good point too, just to kind of put in there, because I know y'all know the stats, and I think for people who don't know it, it's shocking. If you Google, I think Joe said 42, but like if you Google police and 40%, you'll learn that 40, and I think the number is actually, is it 42?
I think it's like 44.
44.
It changes.
Regardless, of law enforcement officials are domestic abusers themselves. And so when you're looking at these types of situations and you have one of them there, I just don't see how there couldn't be bias for them to help the real victims in these situations.
Yeah, and you see it time and time again. So it's clearly an issue.
The thing that stood out to me that and I don't have any training in this, but I'm surprised the police didn't notice it. You know, if you watched a full hour and a half, Gabby was consistent the entire time. She was almost crying and hysterical. And Brian was fidgeting. You know, he seemed overly concerned on what they're going to do and what next. And then even when the officer said something when the moment when they told him that she was being seen as the aggressor, he had like almost like a nervous laugh come out. It was almost like a sense of relief. Like, wait a minute, they're not seeing me as the person. It was like a shift in kind of his demeanor. It was like a very noticeable moment that if I was the officer, I'd be like, why do you react like that? He was almost like relieved, like the way they said it. And like, I just don't feel like if he was a victim, he would have reacted like that.
No, you're correct. And not even being an expert, and a lot of people saw that, people that aren't domestic violence experts, and it's heartbreaking to watch. And they didn't get one sign. He lied. He was erratic, you know, in his movements, and he was acting weird. And they put him in a domestic violence hotel with funding for domestic violence victims.
So that's the way that scene ends with them separating them for what was supposed to be 24 hours. And since Brian was the victim, they put him in a hotel and they made Gabby sleep in the van.
I want to add something real quick. If I remember correctly, in the actual body cam footage, she says and acts out like he grabbed me, which is a very big sign that a lot of people, especially victims, know. Like, if you're making that action of like, this is what happened, it's being completely like, you're honest about it because you're reenacting it. If I remember correctly, it was because I skimmed through that video because I've seen her hysterical.
You're correct.
You're correct. She said it multiple times. She
grabbed me.
Like, grab me here. That's strangulation.
And it goes in a cycle of domestic violence and everything. It goes from here to here almost 100% of the time. And that's exactly what we ended up seeing happen. And they just dismissed it like nothing even happened. And they didn't, I feel like in this movie, that's a very key thing to bring up, is like body language. Again, with Brian's body language and Gabby's body language of her saying like, he grabbed me, and she grabbed her face. But yeah, that's all I just wanted to add in there.
Before we go to the next scene, though, there's what's really frustrating with it. I mean, there's a lot of things that are frustrating because that right there was a pivotal moment. If they had handled it differently, I think it's very safe to say Gabby would still be here.
Absolutely.
What gets me is they had an eyewitness phone call. The whole reason they went and pulled the van over was an eyewitness phone call of him slapping her.
Right.
And I think that's part of it. The other thing, too, which came out much later, because I remember, Rose, if you remember, you sent me the picture and then gave me other ones so she would be remembered that way. They had the picture close-up of her face that was very – so they're sitting there with her. They see this mark on her. They have the phone call. Everything's right in front of them. And they just completely blow the entire thing.
Can we talk just for a second as we're talking about statistics? So we threw out some statistics about them and violence, right? Domestic violence. So let's talk about a few more things too, right? So what's the most dangerous call for a police officer to go on? It's a domestic violence call, right? Or a domestic dispute, right? It's one of the most common they go on. It's where the majority of their line of duty deaths occur. Strangulation training is so important on so many levels because of the fact that more than 50% of people who are strangled never have an external mark on their body. But the fact is they can have internal injuries that can be fatal, and not immediately, but days, sometimes weeks and months later. And that's why it's important to really ask those important questions in that lethality assessment and really dive into that. If somebody's saying, hey, he choked me, or he grabbed me here, and dive deeper into it. And they need to go to the hospital immediately, those victims who are strangled. And you really need to push on that, and they really need medical attention. But to go past that, people who strangle are the most dangerous people who walk the face of the earth. A person who's strangled even once is 750% higher chance of being murdered by that same person. It's not if, it's when. They're going to kill.
Oh,
now,
I didn't know that number.
It's true. It's 100% true. It's been studied all over the place. Dr. Jackie Campbell, Alliance for Hope is another one. They've done a lot of studies on this. Now, when you want to talk about people who strangle and about how dangerous they are, they have correlations into the perpetrators who kill officers in the line of duty. 40% of those perpetrators who kill officers in the line of duty have a history of strangulation. And it goes into mass shooting people as well that commit those crimes. They have a history of strangulation. It goes on and on. They are dangerous, dangerous people. And that's why it's so important for these agencies, fire, EMS, police, to get this training. And it's something that, like, this is an opportunity that they really, really need to dive into.
Just so everybody knows, you're a first responder, so you know firsthand about a lot of this stuff.
And after this, which is not very easy, is sitting through a lot of these classes and learning more about strangulation, which I didn't realize how in depth it really goes. And it's gruesome.
Let's keep going through the clips because we actually, when we summarize everything at the end, I wanted you guys to talk a little bit about that in the foundation. But so after they were separated and Brian went to the hotel and Gabby left, there's a scene in the movie now that I want to ask Rose about. So let's play the next clip.
Gabby, I'm telling you, these episodes of Brian's are not going to stop happening.
Well, you don't know that. And this was just a bad fight.
I'm saying you should get in your car, drive away. Come home to me.
Yeah, come on, Rose.
I mean it.
So, what? You're saying I should just abandon him in Utah?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, Rose, I saw you squirming a little bit during that scene. So did Gabby call you that night or?
This is something I will forever be angry at Gabby for. No, I had no idea about this fight. And I think it was Niki that I was talking to about it. And I'll be honest, Niki's response was, Rose, that's because you're a psychopath. And I was like, what? She's like, you would have shown up. You would have dragged her out of that situation. You would have done this. And she knows you're crazy. And I was like, oh.
In a good way.
Niki.
In a good way.
Thanks. But yes, in a good way. Yeah. But no, I had no idea about this entire fight. And Niki is correct. That's exactly how I would have handled it.
This is now kind of what pisses me off about my my peers on what they did here, because this fabricated scene, I'm sure, caused Rose a lot of grief, because I'm sure a lot of people would watch that and get angry at Rose because thinking she could have done more. That Gabby just called her and told her what happened, and Rose didn't act on it to try to remove her from that situation. So this is where we have to really address the issue of what's responsible and not responsible. I mean, this is very irresponsible filmmaking. To kind of create this alternative storyline here, because it's making her best friend look like someone who didn't care or didn't know how to recognize, signs of real danger. I don't know why they did that. It seems unnecessary to have thrown that scene in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Does that anger you to see that they did that to her?
Yeah, the second I saw that scene, I was like, that did not happen, because I know Rose would have went and dragged her back to Florida. Us would have, yes, of course.
I think it could be summarized very simply. Everything you just saw in that scene was bullshit.
Well, the funny thing is they set it up as bullshit too, because they set up Rose to be this overprotective friend, and then to put her in that situation. Just watching the movie, you probably think the character that Rose would have went and grabbed her.
Dan, you're completely right. That is exactly what happened. Was people, as soon as this came out, were coming after me. And I know we talked earlier about like things people say, and I've said before, one thing that got under my skin, and it was people that said, whether you did it firsthand or not, it's your fault because you didn't get her out of it. You didn't do enough to help her. And I'm smart enough to know that that's not true. But I am also human and a young woman who there's parts of me that, was always like, what if I'd, happened to know and called her that day? And then I would have known stupid things that crossed my mind all started because of this video. Or there was a few of them, and then it quadrupled after this movie, where people were like, you didn't do enough. Mm-hmm. You should have done more. You were not good enough of a friend. How could you not see? And it's like, well, I could see too much. That's why she didn't tell me. It's because she knows.
That's what those magic words, the Gabby Petito story. They shouldn't be allowed to put a scene in like that. That's just completely pie in the sky, made up.
You can't say it's her story and then make it up.
And to add to it, because I think it's important for people to know this too, Rose had a lot of rumors made up about her. The scene didn't help. But even today, we're 3 years later, and people will still go onto her comments, come into her lives, call her a murderer, say that it's her fault. And so, I mean, these types of things have real lasting effects.
Yeah.
And we know that's not true, and she knows it's not true, but there are people out there that still feel the need to harass her over this.
It's victim blaming mentality.
100%.
Let's jump down to the next clip because we still have a bunch. But I will let show now what happened supposedly after that call, after that night with Gabby when they were separated.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm sorry about yesterday.
It's okay. Let's just forget about it. Okay?
Hey.
Hey.
I'm sorry about yesterday.
It's okay. Let's just forget about it. Okay?
So obviously none of us know whether that happened or not, but would that be common of a victim to then apologize?
Yes.
100%.
They'll always take the blame.
So do you think that likely could have been maybe what happened?
It's very possible. Yeah.
Could have.
Why would they be like that to someone that hurt them?
It's a defense mechanism. It's you're protecting yourself because you don't want him to retaliate or the abuser to retaliate. So
you're trying to diffuse it, basically.
Yeah.
It's all about power and control.
I think it's also being so brainwashed, and there's a part of you that does blame you. There's part of you that's like, if I wouldn't have said that, this wouldn't have happened. And so there is that part where you're brainwashed into thinking it is your fault. You did this. This is on me. I can't believe that I did this, which led to him hitting me or whatever, when all you did was say, hey, can we not put dirt and everything into this? I think it's also a delusion that they push on you. Anything you do is on your fault.
Did you guys ever see like cell phone records or anything? Do we know, did they spend a full 24 hours apart, or did she go get them first thing in the morning? Do we know what time that happened?
When's this coming out?
I don't know if we can talk about that.
All right, we can skip over that.
Yeah.
Real quick, because this is pertaining to this scene. Why don't we just go to the next clip? Because I want to get Niki's thoughts on this.
You don't look happy.
It's just tough. I mean, I don't know what I expected, but it...
Well, sweetie, Brian's right about one thing. No one has a relationship where it's all fun and games.
So why even be in a relationship?
Gabby, you gotta be kidding me.
Of course I'm kidding, Mom. It's just... It's like so messed up. It's like 1 second I'm so happy and in love, and the next he's like a total stranger. And it's so frustrating because like all we do is fight, and I've been thinking it over and over and over, and I don't know. I feel like I don't know where this is going anymore.
Well, look, you're still young. You've got plenty of time to figure things out. And it's not like you guys are married yet.
I know.
You know, I look back on your dad and I, and, well, as it turns out, we were better off as just friends.
No, I get it. And I don't think we're that bad. And I don't want to put all the blame on him either. You know, like I've got my issues too, but something's definitely not there that should be.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of reaction here.
Well, it's all fabrication. I mean...
She never called you the next day? Or
listen, I spoke to Gabby about her slight unhappiness with Brian, I spoke to them that I knew that they had an argument. I knew that there was police involved. And, I did tell her, hey, you should think about maybe not continuing this trip if things are getting heated. You guys are young. You could do it another time. But she was determined to finish the trip. She said everything was fine. It was all her fault. It was just a stupid bad day. I mean, this conversation, it didn't happen like that.
It also paints a picture like you and Joe had like a bad relationship.
Yeah.
First off, everybody's like, well, they got divorced and blah, blah, but they were never married. And you've said it, the two of you, a million times. We were just really young and it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Boyfriend and girlfriend, and they broke up. But it almost sounds like when Gabby's response is, oh, it's not that bad, when she was
we
like,
never had
I got that too.
Never had a tumultuous relationship.
There was never a bad relationship ever. Even the first time I met Joe, because he wanted to see who's around his daughter, and I met him at your mom's house. He was coming to pick up Gabby, and he was like tough, like how you doing? I'm Joe. I'm Gabby's dad. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm Jim. Oh, hey Jim, nice to meet you. What do you do? Oh, I'm a firefighter. Oh, that's really cool, man. Yeah. All right, man. Like
he said in the past, it was impossible not to like you.
And I was like, the only thing I always thought, I was like, does he always not wear shoes? Because it's like February and it's freezing out here, and this guy got out of his car with no shoes on. She's like, yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, no, that whole scene was.
But that was
weird.
the whole thing was just.
We talked every day, and I would check in on her, knowing that they had an argument, and two kids traveling together 24 hours a day. I thought, of course, when you're young, you're going to have arguments, you're going to fight. It seems so normal. She made it very normal, but yeah, it was not like that. It seems like they made it look like he overheard her having a conversation with me and her wanting to break up with him. Like that whole thing is fabricated.
So to our knowledge, there clearly wasn't a scene like that.
Correct.
Where maybe
also like it made it seem like Gabby witnessed like a bad relationship between her mom and dad. That never happened.
None of it happened.
That never happened.
Again, that's a fail on Hollywood's side. They should never, if they're going to tell the story without the involvement of you guys, they shouldn't make up stories about your personal relationships. Right. I think that's what they're crossing the line.
But the thing is too, we know that with this movie, they, a lot of what they took to try to make and piece this together and add pseudo-factual things to it. This came out, we learned about a year after. We saw the four of them on TV. We saw the relationship when things got really, I don't want to say heated, but really the spotlight was really, really on you guys. And you're like, we have to protect the other kids. You all four went together, and so everything that you would see on TV didn't show that there was ever any type of negativity.
They went easy with it. They went with the stereotype. They go divorced family. The parents must have hated each other. I mean, they just. Yeah.
But it also then goes against the scene at the very beginning where she's talking about how we all get along,
right?
And it goes against that as well.
Yeah, so they screwed that up.
Well, there's another part in the movie where I think Joe interrupts Niki like in the middle of it. Something was going on, and like there was this like evil glare given of like, I don't know. For me, when I watched it, I was like, oh. And immediately there was an issue with you guys, like, and you weren't this unit or whatever. And I was very confused by that, to the point that I like remembered it. I was like, oh.
So let's set up the next scene. So the next scene is where we're really starting to see Brian's behavior now spiral out of control. This is a scene in a diner.
I don't care what these people think. That's your problem with your blogs and your TikToks. You're like all these other girls trying to be like a walking advertisement of how great your life is. But that is not how the real world works.
All right? It's not my fault that I can't live up to this freaking fantasy that you're building online, right? Real life, it gets messy sometimes.
Dirt is gonna get tracked into the van sometimes. I'm the real Brian. I can't expect me to be the Brian that you're just like showing off in the wall.
Can we get another basket of chips, please?
I'm so sorry.
I'm guessing that this was supposed to be Mary Piglets.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were people who saw things. There was a couple. The manager had spoke back then. I don't remember exactly what was said, but there was a confrontation. He came back in and out like 4 times, which is kind of erratic behavior. And ultimately, she ended up paying the check, I think. Is that accurate?
He
or am I
ended up
misremembering?
paying the check
He
in
did,
real
okay.
life. So there was conflicting reports. There was like a couple different witnesses, and then the manager's report, which was conflicting of the witnesses. So the witnesses said they heard arguing, said that they were being a little loud. They said Gabby looked upset. The manager's report was more like it looked like Gabby walked out and didn't want to pay, and he followed her out. As soon as she approached them, he said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll pay the bill. I'm so sorry about that." Like it was like almost like he instantly was this nice guy who wanted to pay the bill, and Gabby was the villain. So there was completely conflicting stories. So I don't know what really happened.
And it could possibly be a little bit of both, though, too,
Yeah.
because when you look at like the body cam footage in Moab, they want to make them look. This was another opportunity to make Gabby look crazy.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
And so he could be flipping it to be, "Oh, look, I'm a nice guy. Look, I'm just trying to calm her down." How they are.
I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
for sure.
So
Yeah,
I think that they took the reports from that were there, and I don't know if he threw a basket of chips.
I don't think so.
I don't think that happened.
But I don't think it. Somebody would have.
Let's go right in the next clip
Yeah.
because this is now we're starting to see the relationship, a lot of tension brew on both ends. So this is supposed to be a scene that they had at a campfire or at a campground by a fire that night.
So I tried really hard to be worthy of you, but I blew it. But I want you to know that I have made the decision that from now on, I will be the man that you deserve. I'm gonna get back on my meds. I'm gonna make something of myself for you because I wanna build a future together. So this is gonna change. And I just need you to give me a chance to prove that to you.
Okay, so
I love the faces the three of them are making.
I'm not aware of any meds.
Yeah, no one knows if that scene even happened because obviously no one was there to witness it. But now talk about the med comment.
I don't know where they got that from. I don't. Yeah. I as far as I know, there was no meds involved. I don't know about any meds. Do you know anybody in meds, Rose?
No, the only person on meds was me. So I don't recall. No, because they had brought up the meds earlier in the movie where they're like, "I think you should go back on your meds," and I feel like Gabby always wants to relate. Like she always wants to be like, "Oh, I understand." Like da da da. When she found out I was on meds, she would have been like, "Brian's on meds." Like
absolutely. She would have told you.
Yeah, she would have immediately. No, she never said any of that.
Another Hollywood stereotype thing, maybe because they're starting to now, because obviously people watching the movie know what Brian ultimately did, so maybe. They're trying to show him as off.
You can't have someone that's just irrational and it not be some disorder in the way people view things. It can't be. They're just a bad person.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to make an excuse.
A reason behind it, but that's not the case. And then it's just putting stigmatism on other people.
Yeah.
It's like no,
it's stigmatizing mental health.
Yeah,
it's adding more stigma to mental health.
He's a piece of shit, and I don't think any meds would have fixed. Him unless it was like I don't know, morphine that numbed him out to not be anything other than just a body. I don't know. He was just a bad guy. There's nothing diagnosis with mental like bipolar or something behind it, in my opinion, from what I've seen with him. I mean, and I know other people even say like, I know we've all said before, like maybe sociopathic, but I no, I've definitely seen this man like get really distraught over like a lizard dying, but I think it was more of just a product of like there's no meds to fix you if your mom's a sociopath. You're just a product of you don't know what love is. And you became a bad person.
For those of you that haven't seen the movie now jumps around a little bit. So from that camp scene, it jumps right to now this next scene. So and then later on, we find out that where they just were is where the crime happened.
Oh, yeah, this is my favorite part.
So let's jump to this next scene just because it just hard cuts from this into this now.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Mom. We've just been traveling for a few days, so,
So
Yeah, no.
if this film was done today, there probably would have been an extension to this because, as you know, 2 weeks ago we saw some new body cam footage that was just released by the police department that shows kind of what happened, I guess, a couple days after this. So this is when apparently Brian went home, right?
Yeah,
he left.
Yeah,
it would have been about 10 days.
And then so about 10 days after this, the police, because you guys just saw this.
Yeah.
I guess can you talk to us about the new body cam footage that just came out?
So we had already known about certain things before this body cam footage came out, and we know with 100% certainty that the parents knew because Brian called home and said that Gabby was gone. We knew that. That's what we found out.
So him rehearsing, telling his
that's
mom.
all BS. Yeah,
that's obviously
all
BS.
Obviously, at the time they didn't know.
Sorry, I just think it'd be like if they would have waited. I feel like that's not that this is good entertainment and whatever, but like there wouldn't be any need to exaggerate for entertainment purposes on this. That is, in my opinion, even crazier than this whole hey mom walking. It's like, oh my gosh, you called them, you did all of this, you said all of this. Like if you waited, you would have had a better movie.
The real story is far better than this fake fabricated story.
Yeah. For those who don't know, too, the parents retained an attorney in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
So
during this time frame, right?
During this time frame,
A federal attorney who specializes in federal crimes and high-profile cases, who represented people to the likes of Osama bin Laden's bodyguard, who was being detained in Guantanamo Bay.
Now I'm coming from the Hollywood side. So they went out of their way to create all this other hyperbole and do all this other stuff, but they knew that Brian's family retained an attorney, but they didn't put it in the story.
Well, they didn't know that at that point in time.
It came out a year later. By then,
we didn't know that.
They knew about the lawyer.
The attorney's card that they presented was their attorney from New York, their family friend,
Bertolino.
Yeah.
When did it come out about the attorney in Wyoming?
In the depositions.
Oh,
we actually never knew
about it. So
about
that was
it.
well after the film came out, or
it was very close. The film came out already, and then we found out about that attorney. But there was also a public defender contacted in Jackson, Wyoming. I think a day or two after. We now know when she was murdered. So I think it was on August 29th, possibly. Yeah. They definitely knew.
That was in a time frame when I think it was like 65 or so phone calls made back and forth to home from him to his parents.
So they clearly knew.
When it was like 5 phone calls for like the 3 months prior, type of thing.
It wasn't like he showed up at home and told them some story and they didn't know. That's fake.
All right, so that's inaccurate. Let's show the next scene because this is a great one to talk about.
No, detective. We don't live in Florida. Our daughter does. We're calling you from New York.
Oh, I see. Okay. How long has she been missing?
I mean, we don't know exactly. We just know we haven't heard from her since the 27th, and that's unusual. She's not responding to anything, not from me, not from my ex-wife.
Well, okay. Let me have her name and address.
Well, see, that's the thing. She's not in Florida either. They've been traveling the country for the last several months.
That's a problem. If she's not even in the state, there's really not much I can do.
Yeah, but that's... Look, the last we knew, she was in Wyoming. That helps, right?
It doesn't help me, but what you could do is get on the phone to Wyoming.
Who? In Wyoming? So, she's been missing a week and a half, and we can't get anybody to help us. Like, the local police keep saying...
I mean, she's been traveling the country with her boyfriend, and...
Usually she posts something pretty much almost every day, and all of that has stopped.
This is from around the 20th.
And how old is she?
20.
She's 22.
22.
Yeah. Yes, I know. She's an adult. She can come and go as she pleases, and she doesn't have to check in with her mom, but she does, is my point.
I mean, she always does, with the both of us.
Something about this is not right.
I have one. Same age. I get it. Okay. Tell me everything I need to know. Let's see if we can't find your daughter.
First of all, they took the credit away from the police department that reported her missing and acted like the FBI did that. They did not. That pisses me off. having me and Joe sit in office, kind of having this weird dynamic again. That's
and
false.
Joe and Tara were living in Florida.
They were living in Florida,
So,
which was well known. I don't even know
known.
how they got that wrong.
And I think it's also important to talk, if you want to talk about it, how it was not easy for you to report her, like what you had to do and go through to get her reported missing.
I started calling Park Police, I believe on Thursday the 9th. And then the 10th, I called more. Then Joe also started calling around, just knowing where she was. We were looking at where she went camping and stuff. We were just calling everywhere. We also got a hold of Northport Police. The Park Police told us that in order to report someone missing, it has to be where they live. So, okay, she lives in Northport. Easy peasy. And the body cam footage has my phone call actually on there. I'm asking them to do something, even a well visit. And they were like, no, we can't do anything. Finally, I walked into a precinct in New York on the 11th, September 11th, unfortunately. I got a female detective, Suffolk County Police. She was amazing. She reported her missing. She called Northport, had them go do a well check at the house, talk to the parents, which now we see. They actually took the van that night. They told them, yeah, you can take the van. That was that. That was the beginning of the story.
So you guys all didn't get on planes and fly back to Long Island, have a group meeting, and then call the police from there?
No, sir.
No.
So that's not true.
No. Who's the character from The Shield? Joe's character kind of looks
Michael Chiklis?
like looks like the Timo version.
What about the FBI agent? Was that not your FBI agent?
We had multiple FBI agents, but not until after we were dealing with the police department.
Yeah, it actually went to the Manhattan office of the FBI. Then it got switched out to the Long Island office.
Long Island, and we had a Florida division, and we had a Wyoming division.
So they used the real names with every other character, but then when it comes to law enforcement, they don't use any real names.
I guess because they're not public figures. I don't
know.
Maybe they're not supposed to. I don't know.
So now let's go on to the next clip here. We want to get Rose's thoughts on this.
Cure in 2 years. The government has beefed up the research fund by $2 million in hopes of speeding up work on a cure.
A North Point resident has gone missing while on a cross-country trip with her fiancé. 22-year-old Gabby Petito left Florida in early July, but according to her family, she hasn't been heard from in 2 weeks.
The disappearance of a Florida woman is raising concerns. 22-year-old Gabby Petito and her fiancé Brian Laundrie left on a camping adventure cross-country, but only he returned.
Rose, do you have any comments on this?
I guess I could say it's like half right and half not. I mean, I first like to say I hated watching that scene.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely felt, I don't even know if exposed is the right word. I like texted my friend and I was like, I hate this. I am watching one of the worst moments in my life be played out. My life. And I hated that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is how I did. I wasn't doing yoga or anything. It was my mom that told me to come into her room, and because I didn't have that nice apartment that they show there or house. And I saw Gabby on the news, and then I think it was like a moment later, my mom was like, I need you to stay calm, but Brian made it home with the van. And I actually went ape shit. So, I mean, that would have been a better scene for them because I was not calm, cool, and collected like that woman. I went bananas. I felt very uncomfortable watching it, or I guess maybe exposed is the right word for it. I'm not sure. Just, I did not like that scene at all. I just feel like it was very, I don't have the right word to describe of how it made me feel because I tried to explain it to my friend and I just couldn't figure out the right words for it. I just hated it.
Yeah, and seeing like all the photos on the fake news that they had with like the missing poster and like seeing that like they tried to reenact the photos and stuff, that creeped me out a little bit. Yeah, I didn't like seeing that.
Let's show the next scene.
Also, some really bad editing on their part when the reporter's speaking and she says North Point.
Yeah, it's Northport.
It's Northport.
Yeah.
How can you get so much of this right, but butcher?
Yeah, it's really weird on how they were spot on. And then and let's roll the next clip.
Ooh, we got officers on the scene. Okay.
Where's Gabby? Where is she? Get him! Give up your son!
Get his face when they bring him out. Ooh, and go tight on the cuffs.
Is Brian under arrest?
Did he tell you where Gabby is?
What are you charging him with?
All right, listen. An arrest warrant was issued for Brian Laundrie because it is believed that he used Gabby Petito's debit card without authorization.
So you are arresting him?
Folks, Brian isn't here.
Well, where is he?
Everybody! Now, according to his parents, Brian left a few days ago. And no one has any idea where he is.
That's not how that went down.
I don't remember there being
You
a
probably know how that went down.
Yeah, well, this has something to do with all of you because all of you were kind of in that kind of chaos. But so just real quick, they kind of took a lot that was happening over probably many days and kind of tried to make a 1-minute scene out of it. But there was a lot of press and there were a lot of protesters in front of the laundry house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first became aware of Justin was actually around this time, because why don't you talk about that?
I don't remember that press conference ever happening where they come out and just announced all of this. So we flew aerial banners twice around their house, which
How could they miss that? That was one of the best.
Why don't you
things
tell
ever.
everybody what the banner said?
Well, the first one, so we basically let the followers kind of choose because they all chipped in and donated. The first one was just for Gabby, TikTok time's up, but they spelled TikTok.
I remember
like
the TikTok
that.
one.
And I don't remember what the second one says, to be honest with you.
I don't either.
I don't remember. But that one didn't get as much coverage because it was the second time. And that one actually was meant for Brian's sister.
Yes.
But then, and I'm going to tell you what I think happened. This is me being Lifetime right now. I'm going to make up this story. But what I think happened was when we were live streaming the banner, that live had like 5,000 to 7,000 people in it at any given time. Just from the sheer law of numbers, I have a feeling that somebody reached out to Cassie because we started funding the second banner while this one was flying. And somebody said, they're about to fly one over your house next. And she was probably like, I'm done with this. Is this my guess? Overall, pretty accurate as far as that many people out there. And people were out there like that every single day.
People, not all the way up at their door,
No.
but in the street. And also the FBI agent from New York did not fly down to Florida and make a conference on the lawn. That was Northport police always going to their house. And there was one time when the FBI agent went in to take the missing persons report for Brian. But other than that, it was always Northport. And they'd never interacted with the crowd. They didn't talk to them like that. So, yeah.
The FBI is not going to just find out that he's not there and then immediately give a statement. They're going to go back and they're going to be like, all right, he's not here. What do we need to do before they put anybody on high alert?
Correct.
And Northport Police did that press conference because I was getting ready to go on the air with Chris Cuomo out in Wyoming right when that happened. And they broke to him and then broke to me.
Jim found out live on air.
I found out live on air
that Brian was missing.
That he was missing.
Oh, wow.
And Chris felt so bad for that. He goes, I would have never put you on. I thought you knew. I just heard it for the first time.
But yeah, you see like the real press conferences, especially with the FBI, they're very formal, very stiff.
They're very calculated.
That was so wishy-washy and so
not real life.
That scene really felt like it almost cheapened the film even more. It felt very fragmented and just very silly, like the way it was done, and like you would never see an FBI agent that uncomposed and kind of.
Everything they do is very calculated. And they do everything methodically. It seems very slow, but it's done for a reason. And I didn't have much experience with a lot of the stuff that was going down in Florida, to actually be able to comment on it because I was so focused on what was going on out west. It was almost because of the time difference. I don't know. Like I always felt like I was a little bit behind on what was happening on the East Coast, but I think they did a disservice to the FBI.
And you were out on you were out west pretty much the entire time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, was it you and Joe going out there? Or was it just you that was mainly out there?
I was out there with a friend. I was out there, reported her missing on the 11th, and I flew out the morning of the 13th was when I was able to get my flight. And I didn't come home until, I think it was like the 22nd or something like that.
Let's go to the next scene.
On August 29th, my boyfriend and I actually picked up Brian at Grand Teton National Park sometime at night. When I saw him on TikTok, I recognized him as the same guy. Anyway, he said that he needed to go to Jackson, and we said hop in because we were going there. We made small talk, and he said that he had been camping for multiple days without his fiance. He did mention his fiance and said that she was back at their van working on their social media page. And then all of a sudden, he just freaks out. He's like, I gotta get out right now. So we pulled over at the Jackson Dam, and he kind of like hurried out of the car. He had some scruff, but for someone who had been camping for several days, he didn't look dirty, he didn't smell dirty, and that part was kind of weird.
That was true. Miranda Baker actually picked Brian up, and her and her boyfriend, I believe, were in the car, and they drove him a little bit of a distance. But the FBI corroborated that, and Joe actually called her to confirm everything that the FBI told us. And yeah, she stuck with the same story. It really happened, and there was a second person who picked her up as well that they didn't show in the movie. But
they also didn't show, and I think somebody who deserves a bit of credit is Jen Bethune.
Right.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, she was a big deal.
She was probably the biggest break. So for people who don't know that story, basically there was another vlogger. I think you told me the name changed, but it was
Red, White, and Bethune. It's now Being Bethunes.
Yeah, Being Bethunes, and they were out there, and they were from Florida as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw, out in Wyoming, another vehicle with Florida plates, and so they want. I think they wanted to say hi, but nobody was there or whatever it was. I can't remember.
They wanted
driving
to stop.
to a campground, right?
They wanted to stop. They weren't even supposed to be filming. They don't even know why the camera was still on. They were like, we were done for the day. We were just kind of driving into the park, but the camera for some reason was still rolling, and they caught the van. And in the video, you could see the back of the van door closing. And they just drive past. She contemplated stopping because she saw the Florida license plate, but then decided for whatever reason not to. Now knowing what we know, we believe at that time when she drove by that Gabby was already gone.
Yeah. But that was that particular piece of information, though, is what pinpointed where y'all needed to look.
It helped.
It helped.
The FBI was already in that vicinity, but I think it gave us a day ahead of time. Like it was another like 24 hours almost where they were closer because they knew exactly where the van was. So they pinpointed it better.
That's kind of now where we jump possibly to the hardest scene, but the next scene in the movie, I want to get your thoughts on the accuracy of this because I know we spoke about it a little bit last night, but you have there's some inconsistencies in it, but
of course
we went right from the tipster scene to all of a sudden now it cuts into this next scene. Why don't you guys show that?
Our team 3, we spotted something about a half-mile east of your location. A patchwork that you might want to take a look at.
Roger that. What do we got?
The scene in the movie, that was the part where they found Gabby's grave, but why don't you tell me why it wasn't a grave?
I think everybody that followed the story knows that she was not in a grave. She was found wrapped in a blanket. Just laying on the ground, kind of placed there,
Posed.
Posed.
She was posed in only a way that somebody else could do that you couldn't do for yourself. She wasn't in a heavily wooded area, and she wasn't spotted by a helicopter. The helicopter overhead was a news helicopter that was flying in a no-fly zone. She was found on the ground in the area of Spread Creek by a member of the Teton County Search and Rescue Team on horseback. They were doing grid searches through the area using GPS coordinates, doing these grids. The day before, they had to call the search off because of the weather that was coming in, and they restarted the next day, and they had found her later in the morning, and she was found by a rescue person on horseback. The helicopter overhead was the news, and the rush was getting to where I was to tell me before it broke that they had found her body. And I could tell the family,
So that's a perfect setup now for the next clip.
Yes.
About the family being told. So why don't you roll the next clip because this was kind of fabricated as well.
Hello?
We're out here at the Wyoming Command Center in search for missing woman Gabby Petito.
Do you remember I'm sure you remember, but how did you find out that it was Gabby?
Jim had already found out from the FBI agents, and he called home. He got all of the other 3 parents on the phone. Luckily, my kids were not in the room. They were outside and had it on speaker. And I was with my friend Rick, who's also our attorney helping us through the process. And Jim told us that was probably the worst moment. That I knew that call was coming. As a mom, I knew it was coming, but you never expect it, no matter how much you think about it. And it's unbelievable. That day will always be etched in my mind. I remember falling to the ground. I mean, the part where they're like, she's nervous to answer the phone. I felt that. I knew, because I knew it was that call. I knew when I saw him calling. I don't know, I had a feeling, and I just knew it was going to be the worst news of my life. And then I had to tell my children, and it was just awful. We ended up actually fleeing our home because we were so scared of the press that they were going to come bombard us. So we ended up hiding at a friend's house.
What is that like to have to, to give that news? I mean, that had to be the one to have to tell everybody.
You know, when I volunteered to go out there and to go look, I figured everything in my life as a first responder, everything that I've done, my training, things that I've seen would prepare me for it, and I would be okay to handle it, and I would be strong enough to do it. Absolutely destroyed me. When they find your missing loved one, they tell you that, they find remains consistent with, in this case, Gabby, and we won't know until, definitively until we do a forensic autopsy. And I asked, how long would that take? They said it could take days, could take weeks. We don't know. And I said, you want me to call home immediately to my family and tell them that we found her, and there's other people in this area missing that fit her description. How do we know? You have to give me something. Something I probably regret more than anything was having the FBI agent, Charlie Jones, he got pictures from the scene. And so I positively identified her through those pictures. And she had already been out in the wilderness for a long time. So that's all I'll say about that. And I fell to the ground, and now I'm crying hysterically. And they're like, well, we're going to make the call. And I said, no, that's not your call. That's my call. Just to muster up the energy to stand up, to dial that number. Nothing ever prepared me for it. And the worst part is I'm thousands of miles away, and I'm not with my family. That's not news you want to deliver over a phone. It's not news that any parent should ever have to, tell each other, but, over the phone. And it was just, it was horrible. I can tell you every waking moment of that day, it ruined me. It really did. It ruined me.
Something that you said a second ago, which I actually had forgotten about until you just kind of triggered this memory. You said that you didn't want to call until you were positive because there were other missing people.
Yeah.
When searching for Gabby, didn't they find 9 other people?
Yeah. I think you can go back to 50 Cent, who actually had something on Instagram about it. Like, this white girl's finding more bodies than the cops or something like that.
Yeah.
They found a few out in that area in the Tetons. And there was another girl that was missing around that time. She was supposedly in the Idaho area, on the border. Didn't really look like her, but kind of, blonde hair, white, and kind of same build. That was still in the back of my mind because we were getting a lot of reports of over in Idaho of potentially seeing her still alive. So I need to know. I needed something definitively. And, so through her clothing and through her hair and everything else, that was her. And then they confirmed it.
All right. Well, we only have 2 more clips, and then I want to learn about the foundation. We want to learn about what you guys are doing now to help other people, and then we're also going to grade the film so we can let everybody know ultimately what you thought of everything. Why don't we show the next scene? Rose, this is all about you again.
Oh, hi. I know who you are, Rose.
I just can't shake this feeling that I have in my gut that there was done.
There wasn't.
Thank you. I mean, I knew her relationship was rocky, and I just let her go.
Oh. Do you think she would have let you stop her?
No.
Yeah, so what could you have done? Look, Gabby, she lived her life exactly how she wanted to. That's part of what we all loved about her. Some of these thoughts that you've been having, they've been torturing me too. But we can't let them. You know, we're gonna be missing her for the rest of our lives. So we have to figure out a way to live with that. How? Just by remembering the good. I mean, it's rough. It's going to be rough.
It's a lot of head shaking.
There's a lot. And the first thing I want to say, though, is it's not safe for you to leave your door open all the time like that. Because your back door was wide open.
I know, I let Rose in the house.
Like, you didn't even let her. She just walked right in.
She walked right from Florida into the New York house.
Right. And you know what? The biggest thing is, Justin, as you know, they got the hoodie wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows it's a black hoodie.
I saw lots of shaking heads, though, on that whole scene.
There's a lot in the short clip there. I mean,
yeah,
even
Rose,
I know there's a lot.
Before you say anything, it looks like they were putting it on Rose yet again. You know, she had the responsibility to protect her friend, and that it was her fault. And it's like, why is she that person in this film? I don't understand. It's like, yeah, we all felt a little. Obviously, you lose a loved one to something that you feel like you missed something, you feel guilty. We all felt guilty.
Yeah, but no one could have been privy to that. Like, even well, first of all, when did you guys first meet in person?
A couple days before the service.
I met the entire family like in person, maybe 2 or 3 days before the service.
It was the 26th, so I'm thinking the 24th or 25th you came up.
And that's, we'll talk about intimidating moment, especially with Jim, because I was told that Jim doesn't really always like Gabby's friends, and I was not meeting them in the best way. So I was extremely nervous. But
I don't know why she said
I don't know why she would say that.
Did you guys have a
warning she had given me way prior?
Joe was a lot tougher on everyone than I ever was.
No, I remember it was you. It was, she specifically said.
I know why. There was one friend you didn't like. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
And then, we're aware. I feel like you and I had a semi-similar conversation down the road, all of the feelings and the emotions of it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember our first conversation, really. There was just so much going on.
No, we didn't sit down and talk like that. When we were so wrapped up in preparing for this like funeral, we knew thousands of people were coming to it, and
it was just a lot
just being
going
together.
on.
We were just together, like that was all that mattered. Yeah,
and I think it was very, maybe natural. Like it wasn't that we needed to have some sit down conversation. Yeah. Like we had talked on the phone and everything like that a few times. I do remember our first FaceTime though very well.
Do you feel like they kind of attacked you again?
I feel like they immediately wanted to put it almost as like, well, I should feel like that, and now I need somebody else to tell me that it isn't my fault. I don't see what the goal of that scene was.
Well, it's kind of obvious what the goal was. I mean, it feels like they're carrying this recurrent storyline over that maybe Rose could have done more.
Rose could have done more. Everybody should feel guilty.
But this came out around the time that I was getting probably the most hate. I mean, took 2 people to defend me where everything kind of switched around a little bit. And one of those people was Justin, that came out and started to be like, wait, guys, stop. Other than that like...
Huh?
Is that how it went?
So here's what happened. People would start coming into the lives because I'd come on and talk about updates and whatnot. What about Rose? Rose was involved. Rose and Brian were having all this stuff. And I'm like,
clearly,
do you think Rose did it? And what I said, I'm going to own it because I didn't know Rose at all. Okay, I had seen the videos, but I never thought that she was a killer. I never thought that she flew to Wyoming to help Brian do what he did. I never thought that there was, she was having an affair with him. Look, first of all, I'm not trying to be whatever.
Absurd.
There's no way that Brian's pulling Rose and Gabby. That's just not going to there's no world where that happens. But what I would tell people was that Rose, at the time, because I didn't know her, and the few videos I said, she gives me bad vibes, is what I said. But that is all I would say. But I don't think she's a killer. Then one day she comes into the live. This is how it went
You're
down.
lucky I didn't know about that.
Well, I'm telling you. But she came into live and we talked, and she can tell you ever since the time that we talked, I was incredibly protective of her.
Yeah, he
because
still
you
is
got to
very
know who she really is. And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people
I didn't know her.
forget, that we're real people.
He gave me a solid apology and has defended me ever since. I think Justin can attest to this, that it kind of sizzled down a little bit, and then this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it just jumped right back down my throat of I didn't do enough.
It's just reinforcing that blaming somebody other than the person who
the
actually
actual
committed
killer.
the act.
Yeah.
Who actually killed Gabby? Oh, it was Brian. So let's stop talking about everybody else.
And maybe it's just me, and y'all can tell me if it's just me, but when I was watching that scene in particular, it's like Rose wishes she could have done something else and putting the blame on her. And then you're like, oh, well, nobody could have done anything.
Right.
Like they made you like you were apathetic to the whole situation. And it's obviously we know that's not the truth.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. Hopefully Lifetime will apologize after they see this. Because Rose deserves that at this point. Because
she better be as good as Justin's apology. It better be
better than mine.
All right, so here we have the last clip that we're gonna show tonight. This is when they were searching for Brian, because I have a question about this as well.
I didn't actually watch this scene, but
Floodwaters that made the search for Brian Laundrie in the Colton Nature Reserve so difficult have receded, and Brian's parents are now finally seeming to cooperate with the authorities. They've mentioned several places in the reserve where they think Brian may have taken refuge. Searchers are now examining those areas.
Over here.
You want to know what I got to say about him? What's there to say?
Can I start it?
well, yeah, because I know what you're going to say.
That is total bullshit.
Who found the backpack?
Yeah, Roberta Laundrie found the backpack. And I got things to say about that, and we'll get to that. But the police did not find the backpack. They did not find his remains. And for an area that they just said was underwater for like whatever, and they just receded, that grass was pretty tall.
The grass was tall and it was a little hilly, but the area wasn't good. But there's a video of the Laundrie's walking along, and Chris goes in and he grabs his bag and he picks it up. And how could they get that wrong when that was actually out on video?
That was out. For people who don't know, and you can read whatever into I'm saying, listeners, this woman did not leave her house unless it was to go to an attorney's office the entire time this was happening. And when they finally finished the search, they gave up on it. They reopened the park to the public. That the day prior was the first time she went out, and they went and ran errands, right? They went to the phone store. They went to Walmart, I think. The $1 million question is, they went to FedEx and sent something. I want to know what they sent. But beside the point, the next day, that's when the Carlton Reserve was reopened to the public. She walks in there. 30, 45 minutes into this, she finds his stuff. Something that the police and law enforcement and all these search and rescue volunteers with all their equipment couldn't find. And in 45 minutes, she's got all something. And she goes in dressed in black.
That whole thing was mind-boggling to me. I don't even understand any of it. I don't understand it.
It's baffling for so many reasons.
The movie clearly got it wrong.
But there was a backpack that was found, and there was a
backpack
notebook inside of it. Was there a confession in there? Or?
Yes, his notebook was found. Everything was wet because it had been, out in the water. But the FBI preserved all of it. It was true that it was found. It was just
was it true that he wrote a confession, or was it?
He wrote a story.
Couple stories,
not a confession.
Couple stories that were completely outlandish,
bullshit,
and could not be corroborated, and did not match the injuries to Gabby.
We're not going to go show the clip of one of the last scenes in the film is when the actual incident when Brian is.
They show that. I didn't watch that.
So we're not going to show that because
don't.
that would be insensitive to show you guys. Just like it's insensitive to actually do it for a movie, which I can't believe they did that.
But they could have left it at this.
They could have. Yeah. I mean, they skipped over other things. Why couldn't they have skipped over that? Just doesn't make sense.
Did you watch that scene, Rose?
No, I was told at the end it shows that, and I was like, pardon my language, but fuck no, I'm not gonna watch this. This whole thing was already too much for me. I'm not gonna watch it just thinking about it just gave me chills.
I thought that was tasteless. I mean, there's plenty of examples in Hollywood where, even in horror films where we don't have to see the monster. You don't have to show the actual, act to make a point. Glad you didn't watch that.
Okay.
So now let's do the report card. So the three of you have to agree on a grade on each area, and then we're going to figure out the average, okay? And think of it like your school teachers and you're grading a paper. So it could be 75 out of 100, 60 out of 180, which is a B. So we're going to go over all the key areas of the film, and I want you guys to talk amongst each other and tell us what you thought and give us a score. So first is the casting. What did you guys think of the casting choices?
Do you want to go one by one?
Well, sure. You guys can all talk between each other and let us know.
Well, I think Jim and I can agree that our characters,
Acting wise, though, I mean,
You're talking about in general the whole film.
there's so many different parts, in my opinion, to do the in general thing, because it's like some of it, like Niki had said earlier, like the Gabby doing like behind the body cam footage, like she did a good job and was prepared for that. But then there's the beginning of it where it was like, well, that's not Gabby's personality. She doesn't have a hot head like that. So I think it's kind of hard to grade.
Well, no, I mean, because you're saying now one is an A and one's an F, so that's a C average. So, I mean.
yeah, I would say that because I think that the two main characters and Rose were probably, around a B. And then the rest of them were, I would say, an F.
I mean, I kind of think I'd be like an A plus.
Yeah.
I mean, the
They
guy,
just weren't-
he had great hair, you know.
It just wasn't right. The whole dynamic was off. Everything was.
So, but
That'd be good.
if you had to grade this like a teacher, is it a 65? Is it a 70? What do you guys grade it?
Like for me, I mean,
Come up with a number.
Well, let them
between
each
the
give a
three of you.
number, then we can average their numbers.
he looked, well, first off, he looks nothing like me.
Just for the cast, not just him.
The whole
cast.
thing, the casting of the whole film.
I'm going to go like, I don't know, D minus or something.
Overall, a C.
Yeah, I'd probably say right in the middle between like a D and a C.
So that's a C minus.
Yeah, I would say the average is at a C minus.
All right, C minus. So the next one is the art direction and production design, which could be everything from the way they designed the van to the apartment that they chose to the your house.
It's hard. So because like wardrobe and set were pretty good as far as the van and stuff, but like the scenes, like the outdoor stuff, like a B minus.
I wish my house looked as big and as good as the one that they put in that movie. So yeah, I'm going to give it like a C.
For me personally, with the things that they chose here in my moments with Gabby and everything, it was creepily good and accurate. But the rest of it, I'd have to give them either a B plus or an A minus, in my opinion.
It's probably a B minus. All right, so the next one, the overall accuracy of the storyline of the
D.
story.
I wish I had more hands so I could give it 4 thumbs down.
I got you, Jim.
I'm
you got failing grade. You fell.
There we go. I'm going to give him a D minus.
I'd say D minus or an F plus.
D minus.
It's D minus.
Is F plus even a thing?
I gotta say, I don't even think an F plus exists.
You know what I mean? Like it really
I know what you mean, but you just made it.
You just don't want to be mean, right?
That's a D minus.
Hey, look, I didn't get an F. I got an F plus.
All right, the next one is, how well did the filmmakers balance entertainment versus real life?
Oh my.
Well, what's like an A? Like they did really well
Yep.
and got it on point.
I'm giving them an F for it. It was cringy and not cool, so I'm just giving them an F.
Is there an F minus?
If there's an F plus, it's an F
If there's an
minus.
F plus, there's got to be one then.
Yeah, I'm giving that an F.
You're going to give an F, so that's all right. They failed there. This is actually a great question. Was the depiction of the perpetrator appropriate and not glorifying? I mean, how do you think they depicted Brian?
I think I'll preface this by saying he did a great job with the scene where he could copy off of that. However, everything else was made up. I'm going to go with like a D.
Well, I don't even know if I can really comment on that because that wasn't the person that we saw.
Right.
So it would be really hard to comment on that.
Well, the question is more, was it appropriate,
I guess,
or did they glorify it? I mean,
yeah, the question is, did they basically, but the guy playing Brian, in the way that Lifetime did this movie, was he treated appropriately as a perpetrator, or did they basically glorify him in the film?
I don't think they were trying to glorify him. I think they were trying to show what a typical perpetrator looks like. I'm going to say a D still.
I'm going to go C minus.
I'd say a C. I'll say a C.
So that's a C minus. All right. And then the very last question is, overall, the quality of the movie.
First of all, just everything overall, when it was made, what it was about, how they could do that, and then how quickly it was made, so it really wasn't made well. So yeah, an F for me.
I'd say an F, but again, like I think we're all biased.
So we have a C-, a B-, a D-, an F, a C-, and an F. You guys rating this film roughly a D.
Yeah, I think we were pretty generous with them too.
Yeah, there we go. So we have a D rating. So Gabby's family and friend are basically saying this film is a D.
At best, being generous.
One thing before we wrap it up, because I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about all the great things you're doing. One thing the last thing that I want to bring up that pissed me off about the film, they waited till the very end to put that disclaimer up that it was only based on a true story. And then on the same screen, they also go out of the way to plug domestic violence charity, but they don't plug yours. Does that bother you guys, or because
I'm glad that they put a domestic violence hotline up or whatever they put up, but it doesn't bother me that they didn't plug the foundation necessarily. I mean, it would have been nice if they gave us a shout out or even said, "Hey, we'd like to make a donation with some of the proceeds we've made off this movie." You know, anything, any kind of consideration for us would have been nice. Yeah,
I believe they actually purchased bracelets.
The actors actually would have. The bracelets.
Have the bracelets.
The rubber bracelets.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe the metal ones too. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I know they did that. I think it doesn't matter. I mean, you're putting a resource up there as long as you're putting one up that can provide help. But again, I feel it was a missed opportunity where they could have highlighted some domestic violence facts out there because just with her name that people are going to watch it just because. And I think it was a missed opportunity to put facts, information, things to look for, resource, and obviously then here's the resource to call.
I mean, even look at this. This easily could have been a B, this movie, if they just talked to you guys and worked with you. Literally.
It could have been helpful to domestic violence.
Even just bring a DV expert on just for like, hey, how can we make this like?
Well, we don't know if they did or not.
I don't know if they did, but if they did, I don't think the advocate would walk away from that going, wow, this was a good message delivered.
Yeah.
I don't think they did this movie with keeping domestic violence victims in mind or raising awareness around domestic violence. I think, when I watch it, that was meant to be pure entertainment.
And it's a money grab. It was the story of the time, and it's not cool. It really isn't.
I mean,
it was hurtful.
So I have two last questions for you, and I'd like all three of you to answer. If you could send a message to Hollywood in context of making films like this, what would it be? And then also, what advice would you give to other victims like yourself that are going through this now, where maybe Hollywood's doing a film on their loved one who passed away?
You got to be careful who you talk to. And when you put yourself out there, you have to be cognizant of what you're saying and what you're doing, how much information you're putting out. Because of things like this. They didn't contact us. So, I mean, there really wasn't anything I could do about it. I didn't really...
what message would you have for them today now after going through this?
Think about the families and the real people behind. It's not just a story for the family. It's their real life. And you're taking their name, their loved one's name that's now gone, and you're turning it into entertainment. And it's kind of disgusting. It's kind of gross. And think about how you can take that tragedy and make a good film that's teachable with somebody's life, and then contact the family. Get in touch with them. Ask if it's okay. Work with the family, and then you can make a really powerful film.
I would say it has to be more victim-centered, victim-focused. This one had a lot of victim blaming and shaming, and they put a lot of that on Rose in this. Niki said it. There's real people attached to this, not just the person that was killed, the family and friends that go beyond that are still living it every day. Have a little empathy, a little respect. It's not about making money. These are real people that are affected by this every day. And for people that are potentially going through this themselves, I wish we could tell you there's a manual, that there's a manual that we could write. And unfortunately, we're part of this club now where we're friendly with a lot of people who went through a lot of these similar situations. And a lot of them were high profile. Each one of them was a little different. But reach out for those victim-centered resources. Get in touch with them before you go out and maybe do an interview or you say something or you post something on Facebook. Talk to them and see what they think, just to kind of guide you.
Yeah, Hollywood has an opportunity to create real lasting messages through film making if they work with the families, and they're not doing that. They're disrespecting the families.
I mean, I think they pretty much said it. especially coming from someone that did get backlash from this movie, like, you know, have some empathy. Think about the actual people. I feel like I've said it hundreds of times at this point of, you know, they are real people. I mean, and I've talked to Justin about it before, where I had to take a step back to be able to individualize myself again, because I just felt so attacked by everything. And not to downplay, but I'm just the friend, and I know how badly it hurt me and how much I hated seeing it. And the only good thing that I've really came from with this, or found with this, is the fact that of what Gabby's family is doing. And not everybody has that luxury to fall back on, of like, at least there's something good coming from all of this. But again, we're people, we're not entertainment. And my biggest advice to anybody that has Lifetime possibly doing this to them is don't watch it. I know that the three of us have just now watched, not even all of it, but watched some of it for education purposes for this podcast and everything. Don't watch it, because that's the best thing I think I've done personally in the last 2 years, is chose not to watch that entire movie, because it's just exposing. And I think the biggest thing that I was explaining to someone today is, I can understand that I'm just a person, we're just people, and we're strangers to them, and they can make money. But as Jim said, have empathy. I mean, it's just tragic, and it's heartbreaking, and we're already reliving it every day. Now you're doing it for entertainment purposes. It's exaggerated for entertainment purposes. That blows my mind. It's horrible.
And say that at the beginning of the film. Don't save that for the end. And if you're saying that this is the story of Gabby Petito, when it's really not, because you don't have that full story, say at the beginning, but it's, you know, been made for entertainment purposes. It's not the real story.
But I found it weird to be at the very end.
That's at the beginning.
Yeah. At the end when everybody shuts it off.
I am somebody that before all of this thought that Lifetime movies were real, like
accurate.
Same.
Yeah. I really thought that.
Most people do think that.
And that's the importance.
And I feel like I've been like trying to teach people that. Like my boyfriend, I've like been like, no, don't believe them. This could be completely wrong. Please trust me. Or my friends. I'm like, don't. I used to always be like, wow, this is totally insane that happened that way. And then after this, I did a little research on some certain things, and I was like, oh, it didn't happen like that at all. And it's not the viewer's fault for assuming that is real, when it's called the Gabby Petito Story. Just use your brain and your heart just for a moment, as cheesy as that sounds, and maybe think that buying some bracelets is not enough to ease the family and friends that have to deal with the aftermath of this. And like, for me, at least, like the backlash of this movie that just, just recreated a bunch of bullshit on my social media feed, whereas Justin can attest, I then went off social media again, because I was like, well,
yeah. The other thing too is,
believe it, but I still have to read it, or it's still there in my face. And again, I still get stuff for it, and sometimes it's like, oh, I watched the Lifetime movie, why didn't you this? Like they'll name it that I watched the Lifetime movie, or even nice people are like, you just know it's not your fault. I watched the movie.
It's the not real life.
The not real life
time
movie.
And Rose, did you ever get people like, they think that we made the movie and like got paid a bunch of money to make the movie?
Yeah.
So
because that's where lines get blurred in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Sometimes when there are, biographical pictures, you could get, for your life rights and your life story, you could get paid for that. And that's, the common misconception. So, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be shocked when they hear this whole podcast, finding out that they didn't consult with you guys, and a lot of this stuff was kind of made up.
Yeah. Hopefully that makes some people angry. Honestly.
It should. I mean,
it should.
You should, if you want to create storylines, and if you want to dramatize things or change things, then especially like in the case of Rose, then they should have changed her name.
They should have changed all the names.
Yeah, well, not to call it the Gabby Petito Story, so it's hard with the parents, but the bare minimum
could have changed.
I mean, Rose. I mean, especially if they're going to make her kind of a borderline villain,
right?
They probably should. I mean, that's because that's a completely made up character.
She was pretty mean.
I know. I think that's what I said to all of you guys. Is I come across as a bitch. Like I'm pretty sure because I hadn't even fully watched it. I just remember the comments I got, and with what Niki said about people thinking we got paid. I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but I think Justin has seen this and defended some of this. People coming at me, blaming me, and then being like, and then you're getting paid to do this movie.
Yeah.
And then you're doing, and I'm like, I'm not getting paid for anything, and I didn't do anything.
Just so everybody
wrong.
knows, in Hollywood, we do not pay people to do documentaries. We did not pay people to go on TV, like on press outlets. Like if you're on Chris Cuomo or you're on, Good Morning America, no one makes any money off that except the TV networks or the film studios. So no one's getting rich off that.
Well, real quick, because I know we're getting toward the end, I want to make sure that we talk about the Gabby Petito Foundation a little bit because and what you guys have been doing since. Because it's, if I'm correct, y'all have made pretty big changes right now in 4 states. Is that correct? As far as the way the laws and lethality assessments are handled?
Joe has been really great with handling the legislation side of things, and we've gotten the lethality assessment passed. The Missing Persons Act was passed.
What states have you gotten things passed in?
Utah, Florida, 2 in Florida, right? Oh, it was the one federal.
One's federal.
One's federal.
The Missing Persons Act is federal. Utah and Florida, the lethality assessment, and we're working on New York, which is hard. We want to get the lethality assessment nationwide. Then we want an education program for the youth, nationwide, free and accessible to all students. And Jim is creating a training program for first responders to teach them about domestic violence.
So as for you, do you want to expand on that a little bit? Or
Yeah, so it's not just law enforcement, it's 911 dispatchers, because they're the first link in the 911 system. They're the first responders, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, ER staff, just trying to get everybody on the same page. I look back on my career over 20 plus years, and I never had any training in it.
And you gave a stat earlier that the most common thing that you're going to come across is domestic violence, but you didn't get any training in it?
Surveys have shown that 75% of paramedics and EMTs have basically said they respond to these calls, and they've either received inadequate or no training at all. So there's only 2 states right now currently that I'm aware of that have it mandated. It's Kentucky and Tennessee. For them to have like a 4-hour class before they get their certification. And even that, it's up to the individual agencies who they're going to partner with to get that class, to get that credit. And it's
is 4 hours enough? I mean,
it's not, but
it was a paragraph in a book, and that was it.
The EMTs, like in California, go through a 6-month training, and if they only spend a few hours out of 6 months on the thing that they're probably going to encounter the most.
If they even spend any time on it. I took the 6-month training, and I did not learn about domestic violence. I learned about violence.
It's not it's not even a question on the final exam. But I mean, the problem that we deal with is we have so many trainings and so many certifications and things that we have to maintain. To keep adding things on, it makes it more and more difficult. But our goal is to potentially look at it into putting into their refresher program when they have to recertify as an EMT or a paramedic. You have to get a certain amount of hours every couple of years. And if we can get it into their recertification program, they're starting to get that training. We start to get some test questions built. Maybe eventually we can roll that into the curriculum for the initial training for them. Firefighters as well. Just trying to get everybody on the same page, because even strangulation training is really important for them to see. So that's stuff that we're adding in there for them, and just trying to make like a whole another level of advocates. Yesterday, we did a training here in Las Vegas with the local domestic violence organization, with another organization. And we had a whole nother group in the room, which I didn't even think about, that was there for the training. And it was people who worked in the security industry here in Las Vegas. And they're very big into the human trafficking training. And they sat in there yesterday listening to domestic violence. And they're like, we see this in the casinos. We see this in the hotels. We need to get our staff, trained in this too. So there was like a whole nother level of people that we didn't even think about that, see this stuff. And so how do we get them to recognize it?
Well, for anybody who wants to learn more or to donate to the foundation, they can go to GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. But I will also say, because I personally know this, if you want to go purchase anything off there, The swag is great. I'll say I have the
You like it?
sweatshirt. I do like the sweatshirt. Like I wear it all the time, especially in the winter. The hoodie.
Yeah.
The quality, and I'm not just saying this because they're here. I truly mean this. I truly own their stuff. I bought it for my wife. It's high quality, is my point, and the money goes to a good cause. And you can tell that the work that they're doing is incredibly important. So I hope that listeners will at least try to learn a little bit more, consider going there and helping to support the foundation.
They have challenge coins.
As like a young woman, and this is, my generation and everything, I do want people to understand it's not an easy task, what Gabby's family is doing. It's one of probably the hardest things. And as like they've explained, there's so many things that they're trying to do in order to feel like, I don't have the exact words for it, as we've seen before, and what they're trying to train. Lots of women are getting arrested, a lot of stuff. And the same we saw Gabby doing is the blaming herself and everything is so common. And I do believe that Gabby's story is one of the first things that brought it to light, but it's not an easy, thing to do to try to stop something like this. Like they have signed up for one of the hardest missions there are out there, and it's already came so far, which has blown my mind personally, coming from somebody that sees it all the time. I currently have a friend that's in it that she just same thing. She can have a black eye and she's like, it's my fault. And it's like being programmed a certain way. And now Niki and Jim and Joe and Tara are all trying to deprogram so many young women and men, and then also deprogram and reprogram the whole system that is, I don't know if this is right to say, but against, like it feels like it's working against everybody. The way I've always seen it, the way cops are for it, it's been appalling for me, and it's hard to change an entire system.
This is the problem in our society, is we're very reactive. We're not being proactive. And that's one of the goals that we have, is to be proactive and help stop domestic violence altogether. But also right now, perpetrators are not being held accountable for their actions. The abused people are getting arrested instead of the abusers. And it's just, it's happening every day. I see it every single day. And the numbers are going up of homicides. And, it is a hard task, but we'll do whatever we can.
Currently, right now, with the system we have, domestic violence is truly till death do us part. And it's amazing to see you guys try to change that and do something about it, instead of what we've all been doing for years, which is just sweeping it under the rug and being like, well, she shouldn't have been in that relationship.
Yeah, we got to keep talking about it. We have to keep talking about it, and we're going to keep doing that.
And hats off to you guys, because I know it's when you do things like this, you're obviously reliving the biggest nightmare of your life, and no one should take that lightly. We don't take that lightly, but the audience should know that you're out there now trying to save other people's lives, and rather than just trying to move on with your life and heal, you consistently put yourself back in that horrific day, which we know isn't an easy thing to do. So you guys deserve a lot of credit for doing that, and hopefully people will go on the website and want to help you guys. And we really appreciate you guys doing this, because I know this is a very tough thing to do. I mean, when I had a call with you last week, it was kind of awkward to ask you to watch the movie, because I know it's got to be tough to watch. No one wants to see a dramatization of their daughter being murdered, but you guys are doing it for the right reasons. You're doing these things to try to save other people's lives and make a difference. So I really appreciate everything you guys are doing. And I want to thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you for shining a light on it.
Yes, thank you.